Chapter 1351. If I complete the mission given to me by the hidden house you, then they'll help me submit an application to the council, and I'll be able to participate in the noble house meeting and watch over house you. Elder Yu said, but not this time. That's fine. Shueishing nodded. Why don't you kill that Lin Yi first? He's the one who killed third brother. I'll see if this mission goes well. I'll go to Songshan to look for Lin Yi, and if I find him I'll kill him on the way. If I don't have enough time then we'll have to wait for the next time. Elder Yu said. That's the only way. Big brother, I won't disturb you anymore, Shueishing said. After hanging up, Elder Yu frowned and cursed in his heart. Lin Yi, this old man will take your life one day. But to Elder Yu the biggest enemy right now was that male thief of the mystic class. This man was troublesome for Elder Yu since when did common world tomb robbers become this strong? They were too strong. In Lin Yi's tent, Lin Yi sat down cross-legged as soon as he entered, using every second to heal himself. Lingshan and Yutian looked at each other. They both had some questions they wanted to ask Lin Yi, but they knew that this wasn't the best time, so they chose to stay silent, protecting Lin Yi from both sides. Tonight was perhaps the most dangerous night for Lin Yi. Yesterday it was Lin Yi who protected them and tonight they'd protect Lin Yi. Lin Yi entered the Jade Space in a hurry to train, but it wasn't the kind that forced him into the Jade Space when he was injured or unconscious, so Lin Yi could still sense what was going on outside. Seeing Lingshan and Yutian protecting him, Lin Yi felt a warmth in his heart. In the blink of an eye the night passed. This morning, Lin Yi didn't wake up as early as usual, opening his eyes very late. Lingshan and Yutian on the other hand, stayed up all night guarding Lin Yi. Luckily they were people who often stayed up late and they were golden class late phase peak as well, so it wasn't too much of a problem for them to stay up all night. There were sounds of people waking up, but no one came to Lin Yi's tent to wake Lin Yi up. Lin Yi's performance yesterday had already shocked Old Hei and the others, and Old Hei wouldn't be stupid enough to get someone to wake Lin Yi. Plus, Mr. Yi didn't show up, so what was the point of calling Lin Yi? 10 in the morning Lin Yi walked out of his tent. Lin Yi was full of energy now without any signs of injury. Elder Yu came late as well. He was a practitioner genius but the chi here was too sparse. Even deep in the mountains, Elder Yu's right hand hadn't healed yet, and he was still wrapped in bandages. Can we go now? Elder Yu said faintly. Let's go. Lin Yi didn't say anything and walked towards the cliff. Old Hei, James and Xiaoka took the simple lift, while Lin Yi, Lingshan and Yutian followed Elder Yu, jumping down the cliff to the thieves' cave. Elder Yu looked at Lingshan and Yutian who came down with Lin Yi and his eyes narrowed. He didn't think that the female thief and follower of the couple were golden class late phase peak as well. This tomb raiding group wasn't simple at all. Elder Yu came to the hidden house from the common world. Naturally, he knew that golden class masters were rare in the common world. In this group of grave robbers, having a golden class master like Mr. Chiu yesterday was already a miracle. But this couple actually had 3 practitioners. No wonder the couple only came out with a small number of people, and weren't afraid of people taking advantage of them. They were all practitioners, especially that male thief. He was a thorn that couldn't be touched. If you touched him, you'd stab yourself until your hands were covered in blood. The male thief is not simple after all. The people beside him are practitioners as well and they're all golden class late phase peak, just one step away from mystic. Elder Yu said faintly. Thanks for the compliment. Lin Yi smiled and didn't say anything else. Old Hei, James and Xiaoka got on the elevator one after another, but this time they didn't bring any helpers with them. They knew very well that their helpers were nothing in Elder Yu's eyes. Even against Lin Yi it was like cutting a watermelon, 1 slash for each. And so, Old Hei didn't even call for his helpers because even if they came, they wouldn't be able to fight against Elder Yu. This time the searchlight didn't malfunction. Last time the searchlight had malfunctioned halfway and now that they thought about it, it was Old Hao's doing. He was the only one who could mess with the equipment first. The group successfully arrived at the mechanism at the entrance of the underground palace. They did not take the wrong path like yesterday. The entrance to the underground palace was also blown up by explosives. Obviously it was the work of the tomb robber. As for whether he had entered the underground palace or not, it was unknown. At least it could not be seen on the surface. It's here. Old Hei saw the entrance to the underground palace that had been blown open and couldn't help but exclaim in joy. There was a rock blocking that way before. Clearly, the person who blew up the thief's hole realized that there was something wrong with that path, so he blocked it with a rock. The real thief's hole is here. The group looked at where Old Hay was pointing at and saw that there was a roulette on the stone door, similar to the combination lock on a safe. On the stone door there were traces of explosives, probably the work of the tomb raider. However, it was obvious that the material used for this stone door was unusually strong. Ordinary explosives couldn't destroy the stone door at all. However, they didn't dare to use explosives that were too strong. After all, this ancient tomb was excavated inside the mountain. If explosives that were too strong were to be used, it might directly cause the mountain to collapse. Even if the stone door was destroyed, the passage would also collapse and everyone would be buried alive inside. It's this stone door. I've done a lot of research and I know how to open it, but I don't know if it'll work. Old Hay said humbly. In fact, he said this because he had a certain degree of confidence. After all, this was only the first step and it was relatively easy. Then why don't you try it? Elder Yu said impatiently. Chapter 1352. Yes. Old Hay smiled bitterly in his heart, but nodded on the outside. He was the first one to break the mechanism because he wanted to prove to Lin Yi that he was a capable man, and that he didn't need to rely on Lin Yi to enter the underground palace. This way he would have the upper hand when it came to the final deal. What Elder Yu wanted, Old Hay didn't even dare think about it. It was like stealing food from a tiger's mouth, and those things weren't that useful to Old Hay anymore. Chi-gathering pills, medical notebooks, these were all flashy and useless. He couldn't really sell them, so he didn't really need them. But when Lin Yi asked for the 50%, it made Old Hay's heart ache. After Lin Yi left yesterday, he and James had been scheming for a while, and both of them felt that it was unfair. If it was just one person they might be able to hold it in, but both of them had different thoughts in their hearts, and so they decided to work together. The more people there were, the braver they were. The two of them wondered if they could find a chance to kill Lin Yi in the tomb. They believed that if there was a chance like this, Elder Yu would be more than happy to watch Lin Yi die instead of saving him. This way Old Hay and James would have all the treasures in the tomb to themselves. Just thinking about it was exciting. If they did this, they'd be able to retire in the future. Even if there wasn't a chance like this, if Old Hay performed well, he'd be able to get more authority, and Lin Yi wouldn't be able to say much then. After all, it was according to work. Old Hay's method was very normal. He used an electronic stethoscope, placed it on the stone door, and then carefully vibrated the two codexes on the door, using the slight difference in sound to decipher the correct password. This method was simple but very practical, especially for ancient mechanisms like this. It was the safest way, and so it was widely used by thieves. Xiaoka naturally knew how to do this, but since Old Hay volunteered, she didn't need to force herself. Half an hour went by in a flash and Old Hay was still working tirelessly on the passageway. Other than Elder Yu, who seemed a little impatient, the others all had a calm expression on their faces, not surprised at all. James and Xiaoka both knew that this kind of thing required luck, and it was normal for them to fail after a day or two. Lingshan, Yutian and Lingshan, on the other hand, were pretending to be a couple and they were experts in this kind of thing. Naturally, they wouldn't show anything on their faces. Why are you so slow? Can you open it or not? Finally, after 2 hours, Elder Yu asked impatiently. Elder Yu, this is all about luck, it's just a matter of time. Old Hay smiled bitterly. This door's mechanism isn't the highest leveled mechanism, just a normal password. It's easy to open. Then hurry up. Stop dilly-dallying. I'm sleepy. Old house people broke the passageway already. I wouldn't have let you kill him if I'd known. What a piece of trash. Elder Yu said, pissed. Old Hay didn't dare say anything. He lowered his head and continued to break the passageway. 3 hours, 4 hours. Old Hay didn't show any signs of impatience. People in his line of work had enough patience. If he didn't, he'd be dead 1,000 times over. Some mechanisms weren't as safe as this one, and it would be dangerous if he didn't have patience. Elder Yu saw that no one was talking and he knew that he was an amateur. With a humph, he sat down and started practicing. Lin Yi, Lingshan and Yutian, on the other hand, copied Elder Yu and started practicing. The qi in this tomb wasn't as much as in the jade space, but it was still much thicker than in the city. Of course, this was only for Lingshan and Yutian. Lin Yi could enter the jade space whenever he wanted. Wei Wu was in Yutian's arms the whole time, and now he was on the ground as well. Wei Wu was very obedient, lying beside Lin Yi, not bothering about anything else. Elder Yu humphed coldly as he looked at the three practicing as well. Other than the male thief, the other two are too weak. They're progressing too slowly, they're just wasting their time training. From what Elder Yu could see, Lin Yi, Lingshan and Yutian were at least in their 30s or 40s. After all, the couple had been active in the tomb raiding world for 10 years. They couldn't be that young. If they were still golden class late phase peak at 40, they wouldn't be able to improve much in the future. You don't have to worry about that. If you don't work hard to get into sky class, you'll die in a few years. Lin Yi said faintly. Elder Yu humphed and didn't say anything else. In the blink of an eye, it was time to eat. After everyone ate some fast food, Blackie went back to work. It wasn't until the sky turned dark that a click came from the stone door. Clearly, Blackie had unlocked the password on the stone door. It's done. As expected, Old Hay called out excitedly. It's open. Why aren't you opening the door? What are you waiting for? Elder Yu stood up when he heard Old Hay open the stone door. Seeing that he wasn't doing anything else, he urged impatiently. Elder Yu, we don't know if there are any hidden mechanisms behind the door, so if we just open it. Old Hay was speechless. Talking to an outsider was really tiring. Look at the others, why was he in such a rush? Why don't you try, Elder? If I knew how to do this, why would I need you juniors? Elder Yu was prideful, but he wasn't an idiot. He wouldn't do something as dangerous as this. Helping out on the way was just an excuse to make his robbery seem more honorable. Old Hay smiled bitterly and turned to Xiaoke. Flying Sparrow, your qinggong is really good. I'll leave the opening of the mechanism to you. The 10% he paid Xiaoke wasn't for nothing. Naturally, he'd let Xiaoke do the work when there was a problem. Xiaoke nodded solemnly. She'd been prepared for this since the beginning. In the tomb, she had to be the one doing the dangerous stuff. Otherwise, she wouldn't get such a great benefit. That was 10% of the profits. There was no free lunch in this world, so Xiaoke didn't say much and walked carefully to the stone door. Chapter 1353. But Xiaoke was different. Lin Yi knew her situation and why she was earning money. In Lin Yi's heart, she was a friend, and naturally he didn't want anything to happen to her. Luckily, the jade on him had an auto-grouping function, and within a certain range, anyone that Lin Yi accepted would be able to alert him. So when Xiaoke touched the stone door, Lin Yi didn't feel any alarm from the jade. He let out a sigh of relief and didn't interfere with Xiaoke standing there coldly. Xiaoke evidently didn't know that there was no danger behind the door, and when everyone moved away, Xiaoke pulled the door open and quickly retreated to the tunnel that she went through yesterday. The stone door opened, but there was no movement inside. There was no poisonous gas or arrows, nor were there any demons or ghosts. There was only some old dust and a damp, moldy smell swirling in the air. No problem. Old Hay shone his searchlight for a while. Someone went in here before and there are some used arrows on the ground. They must have activated the mechanism before, so there shouldn't be any danger after we activate it again. Don't be weird, didn't we see someone go in before? Elder Yu humphed. Then why aren't we going in now? Old Hay nodded and said to Xiaoke, you go first. Xiaoke was a bit troubled. It wasn't easy to earn money and she was here to be the vanguard. If she didn't do something, she'd become cannon fodder. But there was no other choice, she had to earn money first. Lin Yi didn't say anything and followed behind Xiaoke. If anything happened to her, Lin Yi could protect her immediately. General Wei Wu followed behind Lin Yi, followed by Lingshan and Yutian. Old Hay naturally wouldn't say anything about Lin Yi leading the way. The more he walked, the more dangerous it would be. He just followed behind. Previously, when they explored the tomb, they only managed to reach the entrance of the underground palace. As for the interior of the underground palace, it was unknown. After entering the entrance, the air was much thinner, and this had something to do with the stone door being closed. Lin Yi and the others were practitioners, so it wasn't a problem, but Old Hay and James had prepared oxygen tanks in case of emergencies. The passageway of the underground palace was still the same as when they first entered. It was rugged and twisted. One moment it seemed to be climbing a slope and the next moment it seemed to be going downhill. Sometimes it was to the left and sometimes it was to the right. However, there were no more forks like before. This made everyone feel slightly relieved. At least there was no possibility of them going astray. However, the only thing that made everyone feel uneasy was that the passageways in this underground palace seemed to be endless. They walked carefully, on the other hand, looking out for traps and forks. Their walking speed wasn't that slow, but after walking for more than an hour, they still couldn't see an exit. What's going on? We've been walking for so long, why aren't we there yet? Elder Yu's voice sounded. This path should be an S shape and it's spiraling downwards. Logically speaking, with our walking speed, we should be able to reach the foot of the mountain, but we're still not there. This means that the path was purposely made like this, to make people feel a sense of fear. Xiaoke explained. This wasn't a rare thing for people who often raided tombs. Some tombs were built as weirdly looking as possible. The more weird it was, the safer it was. Elder Yu nodded. If that's the case, then let's hurry. When are we going to reach the end of this? If you think it's too slow, then lead the way or shut up. Lin Yi turned to look at Elder Yu coldly. Elder Yu was a little pissed off. He wanted to lead the way, but who knew if there was any danger? Although he was an Earth rank master, the difference in professions was like the difference in mountains. If he didn't react in time and died in the tomb, wouldn't that be a huge loss? Plus, if he dared to move on his own, he wouldn't need Lin Yi's help. Wouldn't it be better if he went first? He wouldn't have to worry about the profit distribution. Elder Yu, it's better to be safe than sorry. Since we're already in here, it's only a matter of time before we reach the palace. There's no need to rush. Old Hei said. Elder Yu didn't say anything and the group continued walking along the path. After walking another 10 kilometers, Old Hei and James were starting to get tired. Xiaoke wasn't a golden class yet, but her qigong was top-notch. Walking a bit more wasn't a problem at all. Lin Yi, Lingshan, Yutian and even Wei Wu were all practitioners. Naturally, they wouldn't feel tired. It's about time, let's rest here for a bit before continuing. Old Hei really couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to eat and drink some water. You bastard, just 2 steps and you're tired? Elder Yu was an impatient man. Seeing that Old Hei wanted to rest, he wasn't too happy. Lin Yi really wondered how this guy got to Earth class in the first place. Why didn't he go crazy and die from training? His luck was really good. On the path of practicing, one had to have a stable temperament. Being too impatient could cause one to go crazy. Then let's rest for a bit. Lin Yi didn't care about what Elder Yu was saying. He stopped walking and sat down cross-legged. Elder Yu was really pissed off and with a humph he stopped as well. Old Hei and James looked at Lin Yi gratefully, but only they knew if it was real or fake. After resting for a while, it was already evening and after dinner, it was about time to sleep. Naturally, they couldn't continue walking anymore. Lin Yi, on the other hand, sat down cross-legged ready to rest. This pissed Elder Yu off. You're a mystic, what the hell are you sleeping for? It's fine even if you can last a few days, aren't you just messing with us? If Lin Yi didn't leave, no one could leave, and Old Hei and James didn't want to leave either. They were both normal people and naturally they needed to rest at night. Elder Yu had no choice but to sit down and start practicing. The qi in the tomb was more abundant, but it wasn't as good as the hidden house use, so Elder Yu didn't have much of a desire to practice here. Chapter 1354. Even for practitioners like Lin Yi and Elder Yu, their eyesight was better than normal people and they could see things at night, but they could only see things with weak light like the weak moonlight. If it was completely dark, then even an Earth class like Elder Yu wouldn't be able to do anything. Only a Sky class could do it. And so, Elder Yu couldn't just focus on his training, he had to stay alert at all times. These people dared to sleep but Elder Yu didn't. Who knew what was in this tomb? What if it came out suddenly and he couldn't react in time? Looking at Old Hei and James who were fast asleep, Elder Yu was even more pissed. Did he become their bodyguard? But he really had to protect these people. Elder Yu didn't know anything about the traps in the tomb, and if these people died he wouldn't be able to go in himself. He could only retreat. Lin Yi naturally couldn't see anything in the dark, so he closed his eyes and entered the jade space to train. He had the jade to send out warning signals so he wasn't afraid of any problems. But when Lin Yi entered the jade space he was pleasantly surprised to find that he could clearly sense everything around him. He could see the people around him as well as everything in the passageway. It was as clear as daylight without any obstructions at all. Lin Yi was shocked. Before, when Lin Yi entered the jade space he could also sense the food around him, but that was when there was light around him. It had never been completely dark like this, so Lin Yi didn't mind. After all, for a practitioner like Lin Yi, as long as there was weak light he could see things. But in this state of complete darkness he could still sense everything around him in the jade space. This was probably another golden finger of the jade, it was just that he didn't notice it before. With this, Lin Yi could train in peace. Songshan Jiangwen's house. Jiangwen wasn't used to the sudden destruction of the arena. His days of earning money were way too carefree. It was even faster than the kidney trafficking company. Jiangwen didn't even want to sell kidneys anymore once he got used to the days where he could earn a lot of money. It was too troublesome and he'd have to find another one. How fast can boxing make money? As a result, Jiangwen had been thinking of new ways to earn money these days. But the heavens didn't disappoint those who worked hard, and Jiangwen really did come up with a way to earn money without any investment. Of course, this was also the result of a sudden inspiration while chatting with Professor Yin. Professor Yin was an expert in human biochemistry. He specialized in studying the potential of the human body and so on. 2 days ago he mentioned a research topic which was to erase a person's thoughts and turn them into a walking corpse. Through hypnosis, the walking corpse would be able to carry out the instructions. This research topic didn't have much use at first, but Jiangwen was able to find a business opportunity in just a blink of an eye. The business opportunity was very simple: robbery. Robbing banks, robbing gold shops, robbing wherever there was money. As long as Professor Yin could create such an obedient zombie, he could give him an order to rob in his mind and let him rob everywhere he went. It didn't matter if it happened, he'd just give it up. The person's mind was filled with instructions and he'd already turned into an idiot. Jiangwen wasn't worried about dragging him into this at all. Of course, just a walking corpse alone wouldn't do. He didn't have a strong body and he might not be able to escape even if he robbed someone. So, Jiangwen suggested that the professor give the walking corpse a shot of the medicine that increased the limits of the human body. That way there wouldn't be any problems. After coming up with this plan, Jiangwen felt that he was a genius. He immediately reported it to his father and Mingyue, and through him he reported it to the firewolves. Now all he had to do was wait for the firewolves' reply. Playing with Mingyue's picture in his hand, hatred flashed across Jiangwen's eyes. During the auction at Songshan's auction, he'd clearly been tricked by Yushu and Xiao Xiao, making him buy a bunch of broken glass. This made Jiangwen hate Lin Yi even more. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi's bid was just an act to trick him. He didn't believe that Lin Yi didn't know about it. I don't care if you have anything to do with Meng Yao or not, I'll play you to death this time. Jiangwen smiled coldly. When the firewolves agree to my plan, it'll be the day you die. You won't be able to defend yourself then. Lin Yi, who was training in the tomb, sneezed all of a sudden. The temperature in the tomb wasn't high, but it wasn't too cold either. Especially for a practitioner like Lin Yi, he wouldn't feel cold at all. Lin Yi found it strange that he sneezed. What was wrong with him? Who was thinking about him? Of course, Lin Yi didn't know that Jiangwen was planning a new money-making plan, one that involved him as well. The night passed peacefully, and the next morning, everyone woke up according to their biological clocks. The tomb was still pitch black. Old Hay and James slept soundly. They'd both reached their limits yesterday, and with a master like Elder Yu as their bodyguard, it was only natural that they had a good rest. After a simple bite of compressed biscuits and canned food, everyone got up and started walking again. It was the same as yesterday, rugged and endless. But this time, after walking for about 2 hours, there was a fork in the path ahead, just like the wrong path at the entrance of the underground palace. Xiaoka stopped and Old Hay and James frowned as well. It wasn't that they hadn't encountered forks in the underground palace before, but this was the first time they had encountered such a situation after walking for such a long time. Which way? Xiaoka turned around and asked. Let's study it together, don't rush. Old Hay knew that this wasn't the time to rush. They could only rely on calm analysis. But now in Lin Yi's mind the information Bujia gave him appeared. In the information it was indeed mentioned that on the way to the underground palace, there might be a fork in the road. Chapter 1355. Of course, it wasn't as simple as being impassable. There were forks in this path and forks within forks. It was very likely that one would get lost inside, but there wasn't any danger. If one wanted to come out, they could only go back the way they came. Otherwise, no matter which fork they chose, they would be stuck in a loop inside. Elder Yu frowned, but didn't say anything. There was nothing he could do in a situation like this. There's no difference between the two paths. Xiaoka was about to say that there was no difference between the two paths, but when Old Hay pulled the light closer, he saw that there were some words written on the walls with chalk, or rather irregular code names. There's writing here. Lingshan saw the symbols on the wall as well. Perhaps it's a code left behind by the tomb robbers. Old Hay walked over as well, nodding. But forgive my poor eyesight, what do these symbols mean? Blackie was a veteran grave robber in the thief sect, but he had never seen the symbols on the walls before. I've never seen it before either. James shook his head after looking at it. He wasn't as knowledgeable as Old Hay, so he couldn't see anything. Male thief, aren't you very good? You were able to walk the right path before, why aren't you talking now? Elder Yu turned to Lin Yi. Young one, if you bring us in you'll get a lot of benefits. Lin Yi didn't say anything because Lin Yi wasn't sure which path he could take. Lin Yi stood in front of the two passageways, and the jade didn't send out any warning signals in one of them. This meant that there was no danger in there. The other path, on the other hand, had a strong warning signal, meaning that it was very dangerous. According to common sense, Lin Yi would definitely choose the path that didn't have any warning signals, but Bujia's information made Lin Yi hesitate. The first path had no danger, so wasn't it the dead end that Bujia was talking about? There wasn't any danger, but it wouldn't work. The other dangerous path was obviously not a dead end because there was no danger in the dead end. For a moment, Lin Yi found it difficult to make a decision. After all, if he didn't choose the safe dead end, he could only choose the dangerous path. This was equivalent to going into the tiger's den despite knowing that there was a tiger in the mountain. This path isn't dangerous, but I'm afraid it's a dead end, Lin Yi said as he pointed at the path that was not dangerous. He then pointed at the path beside it. This path has a very strong sense of danger, but it should be the right path, because the path to the underground palace will not be smooth sailing. What do you guys think? Elder Yu asked Old Hay after hearing what Lin Yi said. That Old Hay was actually leaning towards the safe path first. After all, even if there was no danger, it wouldn't be too late to turn back. This was the safer way. He hesitated. Since there's no danger, why don't we take a look? If it doesn't work, we'll take another path. Okay, you go then, I'll wait for you here, Lin Yi said faintly. If there's anything in there, I won't take a dime, I'll give it all to you. Lin Yi felt that Bujia had no reason to lie to him. They were only friends, there was no conflict of interest, so Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to walk with them. Let's go take a look then. Elder Yu's eyes lit up. Lin Yi's words made sense, but nothing was absolute. What if this path was the right one? Lin Yi wasn't a god, he couldn't predict the future. Even without Lin Yi's participation, he could easily get what he wanted. So Elder Yu didn't even think about it before he agreed. With Elder Yu's approval, Old Hay and James still chose to explore the path, although they didn't have the support of the couple. In order to prevent getting lost, they chose to scatter lime powder along the way to mark the path so that they could return safely. Xiaoke was hired by Old Hay and naturally she had to follow him. Lin Yi didn't stop her since there was no danger in there at all. As long as they marked the path, it'd just be a wasted walk. Old Hay and the others took the searchlight, and after they left, Lin Yi could only turn it on and put it aside. The light wasn't as bright as before, but Lin Yi didn't go far. What do we do now? Lingshan whispered to Lin Yi after Old Hay and the others left. Sit here and train, wait for them to come back, they probably won't be back for a day or two. Lin Yi said mockingly, curling his lips. In Lu Bujia's information, it was mentioned that this path was dug using the gaps between the underground palace's main passageway. It was intricate and complicated. It would take at least a day or two before anyone would realize that they had taken the wrong path. Are you sure that path is the wrong one? Lingshan asked, worried. Probably. Lin Yi smiled. It wasn't that he trusted Lu Bujia, but it was impossible for there to be no danger on the way to the underground palace. There was clearly something wrong with that path. Lingshan nodded. This mission is going to be tough. Do you have confidence in dealing with that Elder Yu? Nope. Lin Yi said straightforwardly. But if he takes the medical notes and doesn't give it to me, I'll have to fight him to the death. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with decision. The medical notes were Xiao Xiao's only hope. No matter how strong the opponent was, Lin Yi had to fight him. You came with us just for the medical notes? Lingshan didn't understand why Lin Yi would change his mind all of a sudden. He said he wouldn't come, but he changed his mind right before they left. It really was for the medical notes. The higher-ups should be able to find a cure for Xiao Xiao's illness. Lin Yi didn't hide it. There was no need to hide things like this. I see. Lingshan nodded enviously. She felt that Feng Xiaoxiao was very blessed and Lin Yi treated her like this. Even if she couldn't come back to life, she'd still be happy. Chapter 1356. Although he had his ultimate skill, the energy bomb, that was a killer move that killed 1,000 enemies and himself at the cost of 800. But compressing the energy required time, and he was afraid that Elder Yu wouldn't give him the time to compress the energy. If Lingshan and Yutian could help him buy some time, then it'd be easier, but these two were just too weak. Golden class. They were late phase peak, but in front of an earth class, they were one-side instant kills wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, even so, it's all thanks to you or else we'd be even weaker. Qin Yutian shook his head in self-mockery and smiled bitterly. If we were both mystic class masters, even if we were at the early phase, we'd be able to help you fight against him. That's right. I have an ultimate move and you guys probably heard about it from Elder Yu. It's called Qi Bomb. In other words, I compress the qi in my body and release it the moment I throw it out to create a powerful explosion. But the prerequisite to using this move is that I need enough time to compress the qi. Lin Yi said, if you guys could help me buy some time, I might be able to heavily injure Elder Yu, but Yutian and Lingshan did hear about Lin Yi's qi bomb from Elder Yu, but this was related to other people's arts. They didn't ask about it, just like how Yutian wouldn't ask Lingshan about House Song's arts. Even if they were friends and teammates, they couldn't ask about it. There were rules in the world of martial arts and every sect and house had their own rules. These secrets were only known to people within the sect or house. Why don't we risk our lives and buy some time for you? Yutian said after a sigh. If you guys were mystic early phase, then I'd agree. After all, it's 2 against 1 and as long as you guys work together, it'll be fine even if you get hurt. I can heal you guys later. Lin Yi waved his hand and rejected, but you guys are too weak and you'll be killed in one hit. I can't put you guys in danger just to save Xiaoxiao. Xiaoxiao's my girlfriend, but you guys are my good friends. You're all the same in my heart, I can't let you guys take the risk. Qin Yutian was touched by Lin Yi's words. It seemed like Lin Yi still valued him in his heart. Lingshan on the other hand felt a little wronged. She was his girlfriend, alright? I don't want to be a good friend. Why is she mine and not mine? Can I remove the handle? Little Miss Song begged pitifully. Lin Yi paused, not understanding what Lingshan was talking about. Can't you remove the good friend from good? Lingshan explained helplessly. Remove the neutron from the word good? Lin Yi repeated and couldn't help but laugh. Heh, are you okay or not? Lingshan was starting to get impatient after Lin Yi didn't say anything. Let's not talk about this, I'm not in the mood to think about this, we'll talk about it after we get out of here alive. Lin Yi waved his hand, rejecting Lingshan's suggestion. Lingshan was quite troubled. If it were any other girl, they'd be really embarrassed after a failed confession, but Lingshan was used to it. He was just a little annoyed. Fine, I'll risk my life to get the medical notes for you. Lingshan felt that Lin Yi wasn't as nice to her as he was to Xiaoka. My talent's too bad anyway, I can't level up as fast as you, so I'll have to risk my life. Not as fast as me. Lin Yi's eyes lit up after a brief pause. Lin Yi remembered the last time he broke through. He used compressed qi to force his breakthrough, so if he could do it, could Lingshan and Yutian do the same? Both of them were golden class late phase peak, just one step away from mystic early phase. As long as they had enough energy, it wouldn't be hard for them to level up on the spot. Lingshan was getting goosebumps from Lin Yi's stare. She thought that Lin Yi found her pretty at first, so she was a little shy. But after a while she started getting goosebumps. Why are you looking at me like that? You're not going to eat me, are you? You're golden class late phase peak now. If you absorb a little more qi, you'll be able to break through to mystic early phase. Lin Yi asked. Yeah, but the qi in the air is a little thin right now and the amount of qi is too little. Plus, it's not that easy to break through the bottleneck. Sometimes you want to absorb more qi and turn it into qi, but you just can't absorb that much. Just a little bit isn't enough. Lingshan nodded. Lingshan's description wasn't very accurate, but Lin Yi understood that it was similar to his own situation. It could be said that every practitioner's situation was similar when they broke through, and it was because of this that Lin Yi wanted to give it a try. If he could do it, could other people do it too? But this method was too dangerous and Lin Yi couldn't make a decision right now. And so he decided to give the choice to Lingshan and Yutian. I have a method that allows you to absorb a lot more qi than you normally absorb at the same time, but there's a certain amount of danger. Lin Yi explained seriously, This is similar to a qi bomb. I'll compress the qi and let you absorb it into your body, releasing it in your body. This way you'll break through to mystic. This method works for me, but I'm not sure if it works for you guys. If it doesn't work, I'm not sure what the consequences will be. Lingshan and Yutian understood Lin Yi's words. They looked at each other and saw the desire in each other's eyes. This was the temptation of mystic. A mystic class master was a top-notch existence for an ordinary noble house. Once a mystic class master appeared in the younger generation of the Song family or the Qin family, it would be of great significance. In the upcoming meeting of the noble houses, they would also have the right to speak. Even House Yu would have to give way to House Qin and House Song. But there's a price to pay, and they understood what Lin Yi meant. If it worked, everyone would be happy, but if it didn't, it was hard to say what would happen. Chapter 1357. Lingshan, I'll go first. No problem, you won't blame me for going first, will you? Yutian said as he looked at Lingshan. He was a man, how could he show weakness at a time like this? If that's the case, I won't fight with you, I'll let you be a real man. Lingshan smiled. I wouldn't look down on you if you were as decisive as you are now. It's all in the past. I changed because of Lin Yi's influence. Yutian smiled. Alright Lin Yi, I'm ready, let's start. Alright, let's start then. Lin Yi didn't say anything. Yutian and Lingshan were adults, and they knew what they were doing. Lin Yi didn't say much either. I'll tell you to start the practitioner's arts later. No problem. Yutian sat cross-legged, ready. Lin Yi didn't compress too much of his qi. He estimated the amount he used when he broke through from golden class to mystic. It was fine as long as it was enough, too much would make him explode. Done. Lin Yi quickly finished compressing the energy. This wasn't a bomb, so he didn't need to compress too much. Qin Yutian channeled his practitioner's arts, but he couldn't absorb Lin Yi's qi. He was confused. It wasn't like this before. The last time he was able to absorb Lin Yi's qi, he was able to absorb Lin Yi's qi very smoothly. Yutian tried again, but he still failed. He couldn't help but be confused. What's wrong? Lin Yi didn't feel Yutian absorbing the energy. Instead, he saw the confused look on Yutian's face. I don't think I can absorb qi from you, Yutian said after trying again. Oh. Lin Yi frowned, remembering the bottleneck between him and Yutian. He was a mystic, and once Yutian reached golden class late phase peak, he wouldn't be able to absorb energy from him. This bottleneck couldn't be changed. With that thought, Lin Yi felt dejected. Lin Yi thought that he could use this trick on Yutian and Lingshan, but it failed. He got his energy through the jade space and there was no level restriction. But Yutian and Lingshan were different. They were using themselves as a medium to get their energy, so there was a bottleneck. But Lin Yi wasn't willing to give up. He finally thought of a way to deal with Elder Yu, but it didn't work. Seeing Lin Yi's expression, Qin Yutian knew that Lin Yi was in trouble. He didn't dare to disturb Lin Yi and just sat quietly at the side. Elder Jiao, is there no way to break through this bottleneck? Lin Yi shifted his hope to Elder Jiao. How can there be such a good thing? You're invincible with the jade space and you want someone else to use it? Are all the good things going to you? Jiao Lao shook his head, denying Lin Yi's idea. Then there's no other way? Lin Yi knew the answer, but he still didn't want to give up. You brat, you only know how to find trouble for me, let me think. Jiao Lao knew the severity of the situation, and although he sounded unhappy, he was really thinking of a way for Lin Yi. Right, this bottleneck only works for people below golden class late phase peak, right? Yeah, that's where the bottleneck is, Lin Yi nodded. Then there's a way you can try it, it's the only way I can think of. Jiao Yazi sighed. Let him waste some pure qi and don't cultivate it back, just use the pure qi you give him to cultivate. This way, as long as he doesn't maintain the peak of golden class late phase peak, he should be able to use your pure qi. At that time you just need to compress the energy and it should work. But the dosage needs to be a bit bigger. Yeah. Lin Yi heard Jiao Yazi's method and he was overjoyed. This was a good idea. Lin Yi quickly said to Yutian, Yutian bro, waste some pure qi first, don't recover it or my pure qi won't work on you. Yutian didn't ask much and he followed Lin Yi's instructions. He stood up, channeled his inner force and started punching the stone wall. Yutian didn't use much of his pure qi these days, and the only time he used it was when he jumped off the cliff. After that, he cultivated in the tomb for a whole night and his body was full of pure qi. Alright, that's enough, just use a little. Lin Yi waited for a while and signaled to Yutian, telling him to stop. Yutian stopped punching and returned to Lin Yi's side. Without waiting for Lin Yi to speak, he sat cross-legged beside Lin Yi and channeled his inner force. This time a miracle happened. Lin Yi's compressed energy was successfully transferred into Yutian's body, and in the next moment, Yutian's face turned into the color of a pig's liver, and it was horrifying. Ah! Yutian roared and his eyes were red. He felt as if his body was going to explode and it was unbearable. But Yutian knew that this was the sign of a breakthrough, and it was just a little more painful than normal breakthroughs. It was like forcing a seedling to grow to help it grow, but it wasn't too harsh. Lin Yi had experienced this pain once and he wasn't worried at all. As long as the energy entered Yutian's body, he wouldn't be far from breaking through, so Lin Yi wasn't worried at all. Instead, he was happy. It seemed like this method worked. In other words, every time he leveled up, he would be able to create masters who were on the same level as him. Although Lin Yi wouldn't be able to help them after breaking through, even if they were at the early phase of mystic class, they would still be of great help to Lin Yi. At the very least, it was much more useful than the useless golden tier. Will he be okay? Ling Shan was scared by Yutian's appearance and asked worriedly. He's fine, he's about to break through. Lin Yi looked at Yutian, whose face and body were all red, and suddenly yelled, "Shit! What's wrong?" Ling Shan paused. "Turn your head first, I have to help him take off his clothes. Otherwise, when he breaks through, his clothes will be torn to shreds." Lin Yi recalled the scene of his breakthrough. He'd done it in the jade space, so while his clothes had been destroyed, it was just a virtual thing, not real. Chapter 1358. Ah. Ling Shan blushed and turned her head away. Ling Shan wasn't a shy person, especially because of her profession. She didn't really care about stuff like that, but in front of Lin Yi, she couldn't help but act like a little girl. Lin Yi didn't bother with Ling Shan and quickly walked to Yutian's side, helping him take off his clothes. Otherwise, Yutian's clothes would explode into pieces the moment he broke through. It wouldn't be easy to explain when Old Hay and the others came back. Besides, even if he didn't explain, he couldn't let Yutian walk around the tomb naked. He could only help him take it off first and put it back on after he broke through. Yutian was on the verge of breaking through, but he could still hear Lin Yi's words. Naturally, he cooperated when Lin Yi helped him take off his clothes. The qi in the tomb wasn't as abundant as the jade space, but it was a lot more than the city. Yutian had absorbed enough qi from Lin Yi to level up, so he didn't really care about the qi outside. Even so, the qi in the tomb was still activated, circling around Yutian's body. This was something Lin Yi had experienced before, so Lin Yi wasn't in a rush. After helping him take off his clothes, he sat quietly and waited. A few hours passed, and the qi around Yutian was getting stronger and stronger. Finally, he broke through. In fact, this result was within Lin Yi's expectations, but the moment Yutian broke through, Lin Yi let out a long breath of relief, a relaxed smile on his face. Seemed like his plan worked. If Yutian could level up, then so could Ling Shan. "I broke through. Lin Yi, I really broke through, I'm a mystic now." Yutian jumped up after a short rest, running to Lin Yi and Ling Shan. "Ling Shan, I'm really a mystic early phase." "Really?" Ling Shan turned around happily, but her face darkened when she saw Yutian's naked body. "What are you doing? Do you want to run around naked?" Yutian paused, then realized that he wasn't wearing a single piece of clothing. He was too excited before and now he realized, embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I'll go get dressed now." Ling Shan couldn't see it clearly, but she was still pissed off, especially since she was looking at another man in front of Lin Yi. She humphed and turned her head away, ignoring Yutian. "Alright, since there's no problem with the test, you can get dressed on the side, I'll level Ling Shan up a bit," Lin Yi said. After making sure that this method worked, he started working on Ling Shan. Making Yutian took about 5 hours and Lin Yi couldn't estimate when Old Hay and the others would be back, so he had to hurry. Lin Yi wasn't afraid of Elder Yu ambushing him at this time, but the problem was that Ling Shan had to take off her clothes as well. Yutian was fine, but Ling Shan was a girl and it wouldn't be good if other people saw her. "But I have to take off my clothes too?" Ling Shan looked at Lin Yi, blushing. "Yeah, this time you really have to." Lin Yi joked with a smile. He didn't tell her to take off her clothes when he leveled her up, but she insisted. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile at the memory. You're making fun of me. Lingshan glared at Lin Yi. Just take it off, what's the big deal? It's not like I haven't shown you before. Lin Yi had seen her naked long ago in the kidney trafficking organization's prison, and she even called his name shamelessly. She didn't care about that, but she was a little worried about Yutian. Lingshan didn't care about Lin Yi, and she could let Lin Yi look at her however he wanted, but that didn't mean she was an open person. On the contrary, she was very conservative. Otherwise, she wouldn't have never had a boyfriend before she met Lin Yi. Let's go deeper into that tunnel. Lingshan looked at the other tunnel and suggested to Lin Yi. Just turn off the flashlight. Lin Yi stood up and turned off the flashlight. It was just leveling up anyways, nothing else. It didn't matter if he saw it or not. Lingshan was a little disappointed. She'd wanted to show off her amazing body to him. Lingshan was a girl who practiced martial arts, so her body was very well maintained. Not only was her body well proportioned, but her skin was very supple as well. This was the only thing she was proud of. She was much better than Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao. Otherwise, she wouldn't have much of an advantage in terms of looks. Tang Yun and Xiao Xiao were on par with her. You can look, Lingshan said, unwilling to give up. Lin Yi was speechless. Wasn't this seduction a little too obvious? But Lin Yi was already used to Lingshan's behavior. He scolded impatiently, don't talk so much, time is limited. When old He comes back he'll see everything. I won't want you then. Lin Yi's words were quite forceful. Lingshan was afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't want her anymore, and so she quickly took off her clothes in the dark, waiting for Lin Yi to level her up. Lin Yi was a super strong person and Lingshan swore to capture him. It wasn't just because Lin Yi was her type, but also because Lin Yi was just too strong. In other words, as Lin Yi leveled up, so would she. If Lin Yi really stepped into Sky Class one day, then her own Sky Class wouldn't be a dream anymore. Leveling up would be so easy, it was every fighter's dream. Lingshan quickly took off her clothes and stood there with her chest puffed out. She thought, I'll be facing your direction, and if you come over and touch me you'll be able to touch my boobs. Maybe you'll even ask to touch me if you feel good then. One had to say, in order to seduce Lin Yi, this song girl had already started playing tricks. Lin Yi, I'm dressed. Yutian spoke up at this time. Alright, just stand there and don't move. You're standing at the entrance to the tunnel old He went through. You'll be the first to notice him when he comes out. Let me know, Lin Yi said. Chapter 1359. When he first came back to Songshan he was still a golden class early phase, now he was one level higher. Yutian smiled bitterly. No wonder Lingshan liked Lin Yi so much. If he were Lingshan he'd have to rely on Lin Yi as well. No matter which noble house it was, if they had a good relationship with Lin Yi, then there wouldn't be any problems for them to rise up. As long as Lin Yi was willing to help, it wouldn't be hard for the whole house to be filled with masters. It seemed like he needed to think about House Chen as well. It seemed like his sister and Lin Yi were really close. And it seemed like Lin Yi treated his sister even better than Lingshan. From the looks of it, the Chen family's future hope had fallen onto little sister's shoulders. At the thought, Yutian got excited. Once he and Lingshan entered the noble house meeting as mystic early phase, then House Chen and House Song's status would skyrocket. Everyone would think that he and Lingshan were young geniuses. But only Qin Yutian knew what was going on with him. Genius? Genius my ass. He relied on his sister to become a genius. In the dark Lin Yi couldn't see, and so he couldn't pinpoint Lingshan's location. Lin Yi could only see Lingshan when he entered the jade space for a short period of time. When Lin Yi saw Lingshan standing not far from him without any clothes on, he sweated. Lin Yi looked. Lin Yi looked again. Lin Yi sneaked another peek. Lingshan's chest wasn't any smaller than shoes, so pretty. But Lin Yi felt that he shouldn't look too much at this point. Thinking about these things now was a little unfair to Xiao Xiao. Raising Lingshan's strength and fighting Elder Yu together was the right thing to do. Why are you sticking your chest out so high? Are you afraid that I won't be able to touch it? Turn around. Lin Yi scolded. Lingshan didn't think that Lin Yi would be able to see her, not to mention that Lin Yi had seen her. She couldn't help but blush. What was worse was that Yutian wasn't far from her. Didn't he hear everything? Lingshan really wanted to scream at the top of her lungs, but remembering Lin Yi's temper, she turned around obediently. Waste some of your own true qi, Lin Yi said after walking over. Oh. Lingshan nodded and turned around. She channeled her qi and started venting her frustrations on the stone wall, treating it as Lin Yi. She kept punching and kicking it but didn't dare say anything. Right, that's enough. Stand there and don't move. With that, Lin Yi placed his hand on Lingshan's meridians and started compressing the energy. After a while, Lin Yi said to her, "All right, start channeling your practitioner's arts now." It wasn't the first time Lingshan's hand touched her body, but she'd always had her clothes on before. She couldn't help but remember the scene in the kidney trafficking company's prison. Lingshan's body stiffened and she felt hot all of a sudden. She couldn't help but remember the scene in the kidney trafficking company's prison. Lin Yi waited for a while and seeing that Lingshan wasn't reacting, and that her body was getting hotter and hotter, he couldn't help but wonder, "What are you doing? Hurry up and start." Ugh. Lingshan jumped in fright, quickly tossing all those romantic thoughts to the back of her mind and focusing on her practitioner's arts, starting to train. Lingshan's situation and process were basically the same as Yutian's. This method of forcefully breaking through was very effective, but the process was a lot more painful than normal. Lingshan was a strong girl and even though it was painful she gritted her teeth and endured it. She didn't even make a sound and Lin Yi was impressed. The energy had been sent over and the rest was up to Lingshan herself. While Lin Yi was training in the jade space he was also protecting Lingshan. He was paying attention to Lingshan's situation, afraid that she wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. But Lingshan was strong enough and at the same time the qi around her was getting thicker and thicker. Lin Yi knew that this was the sign of a breakthrough. Fu. Lingshan finally let out a long breath, jumping up from the ground. She broke through as well. She'd reached Golden Class late phase peak earlier than Yutian, and so she wanted to break through to Mystic even more. How could she not be happy now that she'd broken through? Lingshan jumped up and pounced on Lin Yi, hugging him and kissing him on the cheek. "Lin Yi, I love you. I broke through." Lin Yi was a little speechless from Lingshan's actions. He wanted to push her away but at the same time he enjoyed it a little. His impression of the girl was getting better and better. He was a normal person after all and the more he interacted with her, the more he didn't hate her anymore. Lingshan on the other hand was very pretty. In fact, if Lin Yi wanted to be on guard against Lingshan he could have dodged it completely, but Lin Yi didn't put up any defenses against Lingshan at all. He wanted to push her away but he hesitated, which led to this situation. "All right, put on your clothes, old Hei and the others will be back soon," Lin Yi said faintly. Oh. Lingshan was a little disappointed that Lin Yi didn't seem to have any feelings for her. She let go of Lin Yi and put on her clothes quickly. She was afraid that old Hei would suddenly come back. Lin Yi breathed out in relief. He didn't understand why this girl liked him all of a sudden. Was she a masochist? He was always scolding her and she didn't seem to care? After Lingshan put on her clothes, Lin Yi turned on his flashlight. Yutian walked over and nodded at her, smiling. "Congratulations, you broke through as well." "Same to you." Lingshan was back to her normal self in front of Yutian. "Looks like House Qin will be in the limelight in this noble house meeting." Qin Yutian smiled knowingly. "You guys rest for a while, I'll study General Wei Wu," Lin Yi said to Lingshan and Yutian. Since Lingshan and Yutian could level up, General Wei Wu should be able to as well. If he could turn it into a mystic dog that would be a good thing. Mengyao and Yushu's safety would be guaranteed. "Alright, you study it first. We'll guard the passageway for you. I'll let you know when old Hei comes back." Lingshan nodded. Lin Yi looked at General Wei Wu. "General Wei Wu, do you want to level up? Like them?" Chapter 1360. Woof woof. General Wei Wu probably understood Lin Yi's words. When Lin Yi finished, General Wei Wu barked twice and ran over, obviously agreeing to Lin Yi's suggestion. Lin Yi nodded and carried General Wei Wu in his arms. But General Wei Wu's situation was a bit special. General Wei Wu absorbed the energy that Lin Yi transferred to it passively. It didn't know any Nigong, so Lin Yi's previous method to increase General Wei Wu's strength obviously wouldn't work. Thinking back to the time when he was injured, the only thing that Lin Yi could think of was to absorb some energy from General Wei Wu, compress it and return it to see if it would work. Since he thought of a way, Lin Yi started working. Lin Yi sat cross-legged and activated the art of dragon mastery to absorb energy for cultivation. But this time he didn't enter the jade space. Instead he absorbed energy from General Wei Wu's body. Lin Yi was already at the peak of the middle phase of the mystic class. If he wanted to break through, he could only rely on accumulating energy bit by bit. The amount of energy he absorbed was very slow, but even so it was enough. He just needed to make General Wei Wu lose a little bit of pure qi. So, after absorbing a little, Lin Yi stopped and compressed a small bag of energy, returning it to General Wei Wu. So, General Wei Wu was like a balloon that was filled with air. Its entire body swelled up, its limbs spread out and its eyes popped out. It laid on the ground and cried out in pain. Woof. Lin Yi looked at General Wei Wu sympathetically, but he didn't interfere. Although Lin Yi could absorb the energy from General Wei Wu's body again, it was the same as giving up on General Wei Wu to level up. Therefore, Lin Yi decided to let General Wei Wu rely on its own efforts to overcome this obstacle. Even if General Wei Wu exploded from the energy, as long as it didn't die, Lin Yi could still use his energy to heal it, so he wasn't too worried. General Wei Wu's situation scared Lingshan and Yutian quite a bit, but since Lin Yi didn't say anything, they didn't say anything either. 1 hour, 2 hours. Finally, General Wei Wu's balloon-like body slowly shrunk and returned to normal. General Wei Wu had turned into a mystic early-phase tall dog. Woof woof. General Wei Wu was very happy. Although it couldn't speak, the increase in strength made it happy. Congratulations. Lin Yi smiled at General Wei Wu. Lingshan and Yutian, on the other hand, were amazed. A dog had become a mystic early phase. Anything could happen to Lin Yi. But what made them feel strange was that Lin Yi kept increasing other people's strength, but his own strength didn't seem to change at all. Even if he was injured, he could recover in one night. Just who was this guy? Even a sky class wouldn't have this kind of strength, right? Especially with the restriction of the thin qi in the air, it shouldn't be possible for him to recover so quickly, right? Where did Lin Yi's qi come from? Why did it seem endless? Of course, since Lin Yi didn't say it, they could only bury it in their hearts. Lin Yi didn't hide it purposely because he treated them as his own people. They wouldn't be so stupid as to ask so many questions. After a day and night, there were finally footsteps in the passageway. Not long after, Old Hay and the others appeared. They're all back. Lin Yi wasn't surprised. After all, they had the lime powder as a marker. They could always come back out if they went the wrong way. However, these people were all dirty and dusty, evidently exhausted from walking around the passageway. How was it? Did you get anything? Lingshan mimicked the female thief's tone and teased. Elder Yu humphed coldly, not even a ghost. Old Hay and James looked at each other, regretting their decision. They should have listened to Lin Yi's words if they knew this was going to happen. They wasted a day and night. Not only did they waste their energy, but they were also in a bad mood. Thieves didn't leave empty-handed. Emptiness meant bad luck, but there wasn't even a feather on the way. It was impossible for them to take anything out. Xiaoka was troubled as well, but she was hired by Old Hay, so she couldn't say much. I told you guys, but you didn't believe me. Lin Yi shrugged. Can we go now? Can we rest for a bit? Old Hay and James weren't practitioners, and the two of them were already dying from exhaustion. With Elder Yu's urging, they didn't dare slack off. Elder Yu and Xiaoka, on the other hand, were both practitioners. Xiaoka wasn't even golden class yet, but her stamina wasn't bad. She could recover after a short rest. Then you rest yourself. We've been waiting for a day and night. We're bored to death. Lin Yi ignored Old Hay's suggestion and walked to the other passageway. Old Hay was panicking. He knew what Lin Yi was capable of, especially after what happened this time. It made him realize how strong Lin Yi was. If he didn't go with Lin Yi, he might not even be able to enter the palace. James naturally thought the same, but he was too tired. His legs felt like they were filled with lead and he couldn't move. You two useless things, get up and go. Elder Yu wouldn't let Lin Yi go alone. Elder Yu could tell that the male thief was the most skillful. If they didn't go with him, this trip wouldn't be as smooth. If you don't leave, I'll kill you. Elder Yu threatened. If you don't leave, I'll kill you. Old Hay and James jumped, quickly standing up. They had no choice but to follow Lin Yi, rolling and crawling forward. When they first entered this passageway, it was no different from before. The same path, the same stone walls, sometimes high and sometimes low, sometimes left and sometimes right. Lin Yi used the searchlight to walk forward. As they walked further and further, the passageway seemed to become wider and wider. Chapter 1361. Oh. The group started searching after hearing Lin Yi's words. And finally they found a set of bones on the right side of the wall. Under the light of the searchlight it shone with a white light, looking very scary. The bones were scattered on the ground, not neatly placed together, so they couldn't tell the cause of death. It was as if the body had been dismembered and thrown together, and the body became like this. It's just a set of bones, what's the big deal? Maybe it was killed by a friend. Elder, you didn't have any fear towards dead people, he said faintly. Didn't old Hay kill quite a few people yesterday? There's a lot of space here and there's no danger. Is that so? You're still interested in dismembering a body after killing a friend? Lin Yi was very disdainful of Elder Yu's ignorance. This person was a master, but he lacked common sense. Even if there was an internal conflict here, who would have the time to dismember a body? It wasn't some big grudge, was it? The path is smooth and there's no hidden weapons on the ground. Aren't you thinking too much? Elder Yu asked. Oh, if that's the case then you can walk in the front, I'll cover the back. Lin Yi shrugged. Elder Yu's face was a little ugly. He really didn't dare to walk in the words. If there really was something up ahead, then even an earth class wouldn't be enough. He only urged Lin Yi to go first, so after some hesitation he turned to old Hay. What do you think? I think. Old Hay frowned, but he couldn't make up his mind. His eyes quickly landed on Xiaoke. Flying Sparrow, why don't you lead the way? Fuck, why was it me again? Xiaoke was depressed, but she could only obey. After all, she was hired by old Hay and she had to listen to him to get the final payment. So Xiaoke gritted her teeth and nodded, preparing to test the waters and walk forward. Wait. Lin Yi waved his hand to stop Xiaoke. There was danger ahead, Lin Yi was 100% sure. Ever since they came to this area, the Jade's warning signal had gotten stronger. How could Lin Yi let Xiaoke take the risk? Blackie frowned at Lin Yi's words. I can't even let my people leave first? Male thief, aren't you being too overbearing? I want her. There will be other uses for it later. Lin Yi pointed at Xiaoke and said, you follow me now and I'll give you 10% of my profits. You don't have to listen to him anymore. Ah. Xiaoke froze. She didn't understand why Lin Yi would suddenly say that, but she knew that Lin Yi had always protected her. She wasn't an idiot. She knew who really cared about her and who was using her as a tool. Flying Sparrow, are you going to break the promise? Old Hay looked at Xiaoke and asked darkly. Old Hay was about to explode from anger. This Lin Yi was too despicable, wasn't he? He wanted to drag Xiaoke away with just a few words? How could he do that? She was the cannon fodder he'd hired. I'll just follow the male thief. Xiaoke wasn't an idiot. She didn't want to die. Old Hay was obviously telling her to step on a landmine. If she wasn't so stupid, this would be a good choice. Flying Sparrow, think about it. What does the male thief need you for? Think about his tone. He's probably drooling over your beauty, right? Old Hay was trying to drive a wedge between them. He wanted the female thief to hear him and get her to interfere. That way Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do anything. Xiaoke looked at Lin Yi. She felt a sense of familiarity from him. He didn't seem to have any ulterior motives, but old Hay's words made her suspicious. Yeah, what did he need her for? And he was even willing to give her 10% of the profit? Xiaoke felt that something wasn't right. Wasn't this male thief a bit too nice to her? Old Hay, do you want to die? Lin Yi looked at him and said faintly, shut up if you don't want to die. If you want to leave, you can leave first. Old Hay suddenly remembered how Lin Yi was strong enough to fight against Elder Yu. He lost his temper. Yeah, why would he fight with Lin Yi? Wasn't arguing with Lin Yi asking for death? Then what do you want to do? Are we just going to wait here and not move? Elder Yu had no choice but to turn to Lin Yi. Let's go see how that person died. Lin Yi pointed at the bones. The body had already turned into white bones, but there were still some clues. Lin Yi's suggestion was agreed. It was good to take a look. They walked over together, careful, and stopped 10 meters away from the bones. Elder Yu, however, wasn't prepared. He only took 2 more steps before retreating back. Lin Yi looked at the coward mockingly. He took out a hardtack from his pocket and tossed it over. The hardtack moved along the ground until it reached the pile of bones. Touched one of the bones and stopped. In actuality, the danger signal from the jade didn't change, so there shouldn't be any danger yet. If the signal got stronger, it would be a sign of danger. Lin Yi walked over first and picked up the hardtack. He patted the dust off and started eating, studying the bones as he ate. Lin Yi was a medical student and he'd climbed out of a pile of corpses. He didn't have anything to hide, but old Hey, James and Elder Yu felt disgusted. This hardtack touched the bones of the dead. Was it still edible? Lin Yi ate one and gave the other to Xiaoke. He could tell that the food she brought was limited. Old Hey would give her some sometimes, but she'd been frugal. She'd gotten skinnier in just a few days. Xiaoke, on the other hand, didn't care. From her perspective, this was food. How could she waste it? As long as it didn't fall into a manure pit, it was edible. Old Hey looked at Lin Yi and Xiaoke's actions. His eyes narrowed, but he didn't say anything. He saw it, and the female thief saw it too. She didn't say anything, so there was no point in trying to sow discord. But old Hey was curious. Why did Xiaoke trust Lin Yi? Wasn't she afraid that he'd hurt her? Chapter 1362. Chewed. Old Hey was so disgusted he wanted to puke. Didn't Lin Yi mean that someone ate him to death? He was eaten by his partner? James felt disgusted as well. Could it be that the people who came were cannibals? Internal strife, killing people was one thing, but why did they eat people? I don't know. Lin Yi shook his head. Maybe they're humans, maybe they're not. Either way, be careful. Even if he was eaten, what's there to be surprised about? Elder Yu saw that there were no other dangers, so he spoke up. Maybe they ran out of food in the tomb, and because of that they fought amongst themselves, and one of them died, and because of the lack of food his body was eaten by his comrades. Lin Yi didn't explain anything, but he felt that this Elder Yu's imagination was really wild. Other than training, did he live in a fairy tale world? Everyone walked forward, and the Jade's warning signal didn't disappear, but it didn't get stronger either. This meant that the danger was ahead, but it hadn't appeared yet. Elder Yu was a bit disdainful as he looked at Lin Yi's serious demeanor. They'd been walking for so long without any danger, and old Hey and James relaxed as well. But after another kilometer, Lin Yi stopped again. What now? Elder Yu asked after seeing Lin Yi stop. Another one, Lin Yi said. What, another one? Elder Yu paused. Over there. There's another pile of bones. Xiaoke's eyes were sharp and she saw a pile of human bones not far away. Another one eaten? Elder Yu said solemnly after a sigh. Yeah, another one eaten. Lin Yi didn't deny it, but his meaning was completely different from Elder Yu. What Lin Yi was referring to wasn't being eaten by their companions. Lin Yi didn't care about the others and walked over. He simply looked at the bones on the ground and found that they were similar to the ones he found before. They were all gnawed by something, but Lin Yi didn't think it was a human. No one would come here to rob a tomb without sufficient food. Even if they didn't have enough, they could go back and get it. This place wasn't difficult to walk and there wasn't any danger along the way. Why would they eat people? Most importantly, the teeth marks on the bones didn't seem to be left by a human. This time Lin Yi didn't stop for too long. He continued to walk forward. Not long after, another pile of bones appeared on the ground. It was similar to the previous one and there were traces of gnawing on it. These people sure can eat. They ate 3 in such a short time. Elder Yu laughed after seeing it. Lin Yi was speechless. This person's IQ was truly shocking. Even if they were eaten by their companions who could eat 3 people in one day. That was more than 100 kilograms. How much meat could you eat in a day? He continued walking forward and not long after, another pile of bones appeared on the ground. The distance between the 2 piles was much closer, only a few hundred meters apart. Another one? Even Elder Yu was suspicious. Just how many people had been eaten this time? Even if it was an internal conflict, there shouldn't be this many dead, right? Lin Yi had a bad premonition in his heart. There seemed to be something alive in this tomb, especially after seeing so many white bones. Lin Yi's premonition grew even stronger. He moved forward once more. This time he didn't go far before the warning signal from the jade pendant suddenly became stronger. Lin Yi quickly stopped. What now? White bones again? Elder Yu asked subconsciously. There seems to be danger, Lin Yi said. Danger. Elder Yu paused and so did old Hey and James. Lingshan and Yutian listened to Lin Yi completely, so they moved closer to Lin Yi as soon as Lin Yi said that. Only by staying together would they be safe. How come I don't feel it? Old Hey was confused. The place Lin Yi was at was empty and there was nothing there. It was just a part of the passageway and logically speaking there shouldn't be any danger here. In ancient times, There were no precise electronic measuring devices and calculating devices. After walking for such a long distance, it was impossible to set up any traps in a passageway that had no rulers or markings. Otherwise, even their own people might accidentally fall into a trap. Of course, those tombs that wanted to be sealed forever were an exception, but Old Hay and James hadn't seen that before. Let's wait here for a bit. With that, Lin Yi prepared to sit down on the ground and stop moving forward. There weren't any forks in the road and he stopped without seeing any danger. Naturally, Elder Yu wasn't satisfied. He'd been delayed for so many days already, and he hadn't even entered the underground palace yet. It pissed him off that he was stuck on the road. His time wasn't limitless, and the Noble House Association was watching him. If he was out for too long and they didn't notice him, he'd be in big trouble. What's there to wait for? There's no village ahead or shop behind. What do you want? Elder Yu was suspicious of Lin Yi's intentions. Lin Yi looked at him, too lazy to explain. What do you guys think? I think we should keep going. Elder Yu had heard Lin Yi say that it was dangerous, but they didn't see any danger at all, so he didn't really believe Lin Yi's words. He thought that he was just trying to scare them, or maybe he was trying to make them rely on him. Alright, let's keep going then. Old Hay and James looked at each other. They could see the greed in each other's eyes. Greed was boundless, especially after Lin Yi asked for 50% of the loot. The two of them wanted to exclude Lin Yi from the equation, and now was the perfect opportunity. Lin Yi had been so suspicious before, saying that there was danger here and there, but there hadn't been any danger along the way. Other than a few skeletons, there wasn't anything out of the ordinary, so they relaxed a little. Good luck, you guys. Lin Yi smiled, not saying much. Xiaoke decided to stay. She felt that Lin Yi couldn't harm her, but she didn't know what Old Hay would do. Xiaoke was starting to regret accepting this mission. This Old Hay was cruel and didn't treat her as an equal at all. He was using her as cannon fodder. Elder Yu brought Old Hay and James away before Lingshan asked, "Male thief, is there really danger ahead?" Because of Xiaoke's presence, she called Lin Yi a male thief. Chapter 1363. It has something to do with the bones? Lingshan asked. That's right. Lin Yi nodded. I feel like there's something alive in this tomb, and those people might have been eaten by that thing. Tomb keeper? Xiaoke couldn't help but gasp after hearing Lin Yi's words. What's a tomb keeper? Lin Yi wasn't a thief, so naturally he'd never heard of it. Tomb watchers are the protectors of the graveyard. These people used to be the servants of the master of the grave, and as they developed they could be the descendants of the servants or the servants of the servants. But now there are very few of them, Xiaoke said. Yes. You're saying that there's a tomb keeper in this tomb? That it ate these people? Lin Yi asked. Could be a human, but it could also be a spirit beast. Tomb-guarding spirit beasts are recorded in some ancient tomb robberies. This is a type of spirit beast that exists to guard tombs, living in the tomb and protecting it. When there's no one around, it hibernates like a turtle, but once someone barges in, it will wake up and eat the robbers as food before going back into hibernation. Xiaoke explained, if these people weren't eaten by their companions, then it's very likely that they were eaten by the tomb-guarding spirit beast. Lin Yi nodded. If these people weren't eaten by their companions, then it's very likely that they were eaten by the tomb-guarding spirit beast. Xiaoke explained, if these people weren't eaten by their companions, then it's very likely that it was the tomb-guarding spirit beast. There's something like that? Lin Yi was surprised. Then Old Hay and the others don't know about it? Maybe they do, maybe they don't, because it's just a legend. I've read about it in some ancient tomb. Maybe it's just something people made up to scare people, but in all these years I've never heard of anyone meeting a tomb keeper. There have been tomb keepers, but they don't live in the tomb, they only live near the tomb. Xiaoke said, and these tomb keepers have gone through tens or even hundreds of generations, and many of them don't even know where the tombs, they only know about the legend of their ancestors. I see. Lin Yi nodded. He guessed that the spirit beast guarding the tomb was similar to the fire spirit's fruit that his old man had seen. It was an extremely rare existence and very few people believed in it anymore. Then these people will probably meet the legendary spirit beast guarding the tomb. How wonderful. Then these people, will they be eaten as well? Lingshan frowned. Who knows? Lin Yi shrugged. Lingshan didn't say anything. Things had gone beyond her expectations. She didn't want these grave robbers to die, and wanted to bring them to justice. But this wasn't the time for her to do whatever she wanted. Even Lin Yi couldn't do anything about it. If Lin Yi was confident, he wouldn't be sitting here waiting. And so Lingshan and Yutian looked at each other and went silent. Whatever, as long as they could capture those small fries up there, it'd be worth it. Right? Male thief, can I ask you something? Xiaoke couldn't help but ask. She hadn't talked much with the male thief before and they weren't familiar with each other, so she didn't dare to talk too much. But now that they had talked a lot, she wasn't as nervous as before. What is it? Lin Yi asked. Why are you helping me? Xiaoke asked after some hesitation. Oh. Lin Yi didn't know if he should reveal his identity. After some thought, he decided not to cause any more trouble. He smiled. I see that you're pretty and I want to take you as my wife. Is that okay? What? Xiaoke's eyes went wide and her face turned red from Lin Yi's words. She coughed and stuttered, No? No way, right? Lin Yi smiled at Xiaoke's shocked face. So don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Oh. Xiaoke nodded, but she was still a little embarrassed. Lingshan was so pissed off that she almost jumped up and pointed at Lin Yi. Just what was wrong with me? Why would you rather take a female thief as your wife and not think about me? She was pissed. Huh? Lin Yi thought that Xiaoke was quite amusing. How much are you worth? Xiaoke suddenly asked after some silence. Lin Yi paused. It's nothing, it just depends on how much you're worth and if you're worth being my wife. How much can you give me? Xiaoke said seriously. I'm joking. Lin Yi looked at the serious look on Xiaoke's face and felt bad. Lin Yi could guess what Xiaoke was thinking. Perhaps she thought that the couple should be very rich. How could a grave robber not have money? Perhaps she could tell that it was too dangerous to help other people rob graves, especially this time. She might die if she didn't do it properly, so she thought of selling herself. If she could sell herself for a good price, then the orphanage wouldn't have to worry about the future and Xiaoke might really agree. In her eyes, she didn't care about her own benefits and happiness at all. Only the children in the orphanage. Haha, I'm just joking too. Xiaoke laughed. In fact, Lin Yi was right, Xiaoke really did think the same way as Lin Yi. If Lin Yi could take out a sum of money that could build the orphanage well, and make it so that the orphanage wouldn't have to worry about its expenses for a long time, then Xiaoke would be willing to be his wife or even his maid. But Xiaoke shook her head in self-mockery. She wasn't a golden phoenix, why would he spend so much money? Was that even possible? She reckoned that these thoughts of hers would cause the male thief to go bankrupt. Even if he really wanted to marry her as a concubine, he would be scared away after hearing her request. The four of them waited here for a while. After about half an hour, they suddenly heard the sound of messy footsteps coming from the passageway in front of them. They're back. Lingshan asked after hearing the footsteps. They seem to be running back? Yutian frowned, confused. Not good. Lin Yi's heart sank. The jade's warning signal was getting stronger and stronger, which meant that Elder Yu and Old Hay had brought danger back as well. As expected, following the messy footsteps were screams of pain. Help. Not good. There's a ghost. There's a ghost in the grave, it's going to eat people. Chapter 1364. Slowly, Lin Yi could see a person running back from the passageway. It was Elder Yu. An earth class, running faster than a rabbit. Looking at him, he didn't seem to be injured at all. This meant that he didn't fight with the so-called ghost. This made Lin Yi look down on him. This guy was a bit too cowardly, wasn't he? In fact, Elder Yu really was a cowardly person. Otherwise, he wouldn't be threatened by a mystic like Lin Yi time and again. He was arrogant, but he cherished his life like gold. He was a contradiction, but it could also be understood as bullying the weak and fearing the strong. In front of a weaker opponent, Elder Yu was arrogant and prideful. He took pride in bullying the weak. But once the opponent was strong enough to threaten his life, he became hesitant and didn't dare to fight head-on. However, it wasn't hard for people who knew Elder Yu's background to understand. As the head of the Commonwealth House Yu, he was once the head of the Commonwealth House Yu. Other than pursuing a higher level of martial arts, he wanted to bring glory to the Commonwealth House Yu, so he entered the Hidden House Yu. If he hadn't entered a hidden house, Elder Yu wouldn't have known how small he was. But when he saw that there were so many Earth-class masters in the hidden house, and even a legendary Sky-class master, Elder Yu knew that he was nothing more than an ant. Being able to enter the hidden house wasn't something to be proud of. Here people could kill him at any time. So he started to tremble and be careful, afraid that he would lose his life. He felt how small his life was and he became more cautious. Earth class in the common world was the top, but after entering the hidden house his position was lower than those mystic class servants because he was an outsider. Maybe if something happened to him and he died, the hidden house wouldn't even bat an eye. In order to confirm his position in the hidden house, Elder Yu had to accept some of the missions from House Yu in the common world, even if it was dangerous. But Elder Yu wasn't an idiot. Once his life was threatened he would definitely choose to save his own life first. As for the mission, to hell with it. Once he died, there would be no hope for House Yu, let alone revenge for his third brother and nephew. But this time he really felt danger. It was a monster, and although it seemed to be only golden class late phase peak, Elder Yu didn't dare to act recklessly. They weren't humans, so they couldn't be measured by human strength. If he was facing a human late phase peak golden class master, Elder Yu would probably just mock him and kill him, but facing a golden class late phase peak ghost, Elder Yu didn't even have the thought of fighting him. This thing wasn't human. Who knew how they divided their strength? Would he be eaten by him? No way. Is there really a ghost? Xiaoka was startled as well. They were just talking about a tomb guardian beast and now it was here. She was a girl and of course she was scared. Some things could be said, but seeing it with her own eyes would make her heart skip a beat. It's not a ghost. It's a weird-looking animal. It's probably the tomb guardian beast you were talking about. Lin Yi closed his eyes, using the jade space to observe the scene in the far. This was Lin Yi's golden finger. Otherwise, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to see what was coming. He's very fast, at least not slower than old Hage. Then what do we do now? Ling Shan subconsciously pulled out her handgun. This was the first time she wanted to use it since coming here. I don't know, but he's about to catch up to James, Lin Yi said. Suddenly, a scream came from the passageway. It was James' voice. It seemed like James had been captured by the monster. It's James. Xiaoka recognized the voice as well. Yeah, James is done for. The monster's already bitten his neck off. Lin Yi sighed. As expected, White Bones was eaten by it. The monster stopped chasing Old Hay and Elder Yu and started eating James, while Elder Yu and Old Hay ran over in one go. Run, there's a ghost? Blackie gasped for breath. Elder Yu, you're an Earth class, aren't you going to deal with that monster? It's just a golden class late phase peak monster, Lin Yi said mockingly. So you know that it's a monster. I'm a human. How can I compare to a monster? Who knows if it's strong or not? Some monsters without a level can kill an Earth class in one hit. Elder Yu humphed coldly. Ignorant brat, there are too many things you don't know. In those ancient sects, there are some ancient spirit beasts that aren't high-leveled, but they have very powerful abilities. Some look like they're only golden class, but they have very high attack skills. Lin Yi paused, not expecting ancient spirit beasts to exist. Wasn't this similar to the spirit beast that Xiaoka talked about? They were probably the same type, just guarding different things. After hearing the words, Lin Yi understood why Elder Yu didn't want to do anything. Some people really couldn't be measured by level. Like Air Gooden, for example. He looked like an unclassed, but he could kill a mystic in one hit. It didn't make sense at all. So you're saying that we're giving up on this tomb? Lin Yi's eyes narrowed as he looked at Elder Yu. While the monster is eating James, we'll discuss our strategy. Should we work together to kill the monster or should we leave the tomb? Elder Yu wasn't in too much of a rush. He wasn't confident that he could fight the monster head-on, but he could still run. His speed was clearly faster than the monster. I remember someone said that if there's any danger in the tomb he'll take care of it. Isn't that you, Elder Yu? Lin Yi looked at Elder Yu and said faintly, Kid, you only know how to talk big. If you think you can do it, then go take care of him. Elder Yu humphed. Chapter 1365. But Lin Yi was confident that as long as he killed this monster and entered the underground palace, Elder Yu wouldn't be able to catch him even if he came back. The tomb was full of traps and it wasn't something Elder Yu could catch up to. You want to throw me off? It's not that easy. Either we work together to kill this monster or I'll watch you do it. Elder Yu wasn't an idiot. He knew what Lin Yi was thinking. What if he couldn't find Lin Yi when he came back? How do you want to work together? Lin Yi asked. You lure the monster to eat you and I'll ambush you from the back. Elder Yu said straightforwardly. Lin Yi blushed a little on his behalf. Elder Yu, could you be more shameless? Letting him be the cannon fodder while he ambushed him? What do you think? My idea isn't bad, right? Elder Yu's face was thick to a certain extent, and he didn't feel that there was anything wrong with what he said. Even old Hay felt that this Elder Yu was going overboard, but Lin Yi nodded. All right, I'll lure it from the front and you ambush it. Lin Yi knew that it wasn't practical to let Elder Yu lure the monster. With Elder Yu's personality, he wouldn't do something so dangerous. As for ambushing, it was much less dangerous. Elder Yu was confident that he could escape from the monster, and so was Lin Yi, so he wasn't afraid of the monster. With that, Lin Yi walked towards the monster, and Elder Yu followed carefully behind Lin Yi as if he would run away at any moment. Ling Shan and Yutian looked at each other, but they didn't move. Lin Yi didn't let them do anything, and the best plan was for them to stay where they were. Otherwise, they'd just be more of a hindrance to Lin Yi. Lin Yi and Elder Yu, one in front and one at the back, came to the monster's side. At this moment, the monster was focused on eating James' body, its mouth full of blood. It was a scary sight. This was also the first time Lin Yi observed the monster up close. The monster had a yellow mane and looked a bit like a gorilla, but there were some differences. Although it had hairy limbs, used its hind legs to walk and used its forelegs to eat, it didn't have a tail. From its appearance, it was completely different from a gorilla or monkey. It looked a bit like a toad with protruding eyes, no nose and a pointed mouth. It was hard to tell what such a monster was. The monster clearly saw Lin Yi approaching. Perhaps it was curious. Others would run away when they saw it, so why would Lin Yi take the initiative to approach it? However, now that there was human meat to eat, the monster was not in a hurry to attack Lin Yi. When Lin Yi passed by the monster only glanced at him once. But when Lin Yi passed it and continued forward, the monster suddenly threw James away and pounced at Lin Yi with its claws and fangs. This indirectly proved Lin Yi's guess. This really was a spirit beast guarding the tomb. When Lin Yi didn't intend to continue into the tomb, it ignored Lin Yi, but when Lin Yi continued forward, he was attacked by the monster. It even ignored the food in its hands and chased after Lin Yi. Lin Yi's qinggong wasn't any weaker than Elder Yu. How could this monster catch up to him? Although Lin Yi was sure that this monster was at the peak of the late phase of the golden class, he had a strange feeling as if he wasn't its opponent. This feeling became stronger when the monster swung its paw at him. Lin Yi didn't have the confidence to take it head-on. If it weren't for the fact that he still had to rely on Lin Yi to enter the tomb, Elder Yu wouldn't mind stalling for time and let the monster finish off Lin Yi first. That way, Lin Yi wouldn't have the strength to fight with him for the qi-gathering pills and medical notes. But Elder Yu knew that it would be hard for old He and Xiaoke to enter the tomb, and so he had to protect Lin Yi's life. Roar. The more Lin Yi walked in, the angrier the monster got. It was as if Lin Yi had stolen its belongings and it chased after Lin Yi. The monster left its back to Elder Yu as if it didn't have any defense against him at all. This made Elder Yu laugh. Haha, monsters really were monsters, their intelligence was too low. Leaving its back to the enemy, wasn't it looking to die? And so, Elder Yu channeled his qi and clenched his fists, aiming at the monster's back. He was ready to kill this monster in one hit. Elder Yu didn't want to waste time with a monster like this, so he used all of his strength right from the get-go. He was afraid that if he couldn't kill it in one hit, it'd be troublesome if he ambushed it again. Peng! A loud sound, and both of Elder Yu's fists landed on the monster's back. It could be said that the full strength of an early phase Earth class was used up in this one hit. As far as he was concerned, this monster was dead for sure. Golden class late phase peak. After taking a hit from an early phase Earth class, there was no reason for it not to die. Not to mention golden class late phase peak, even a mystic late phase peak would be dead for sure if they took a hit like that, let alone with both fists. But before Elder Yu could be proud of himself, the monster turned around and slapped at Elder Yu. Elder Yu didn't have any defense and was hit squarely on the chest, sending him flying. Roar. The monster didn't think that someone would dare to ambush him, and he was furious. His eyes turned red and he didn't care about Lin Yi anymore as he ran towards Elder Yu. Pfft. Elder Yu spat out a mouthful of blood from the monster's slap. His body was in pain and at the same time he was shocked. Why wasn't the monster dead? How did it have such strength? But he didn't have time to think too much because the monster was chasing after him again. And so, Elder Yu stood up and ran, afraid that the monster would catch up to him. Lin Yi frowned as expected. The feeling of danger that this monster gave him was correct. It wasn't a normal golden class late phase peak, and a spirit beast like this couldn't be judged by the standards of a human's level. Although Elder Yu didn't kill the monster, the full strength of an early phase Earth class was no joke. It probably did some damage to the monster, or else it wouldn't be this angry. Elder Yu wanted to cry. You have a mystic class dog, why didn't you come earlier? Why didn't you say so earlier? You even made me spit out blood after getting slapped by that monster. How can you trick people like this? Doggy, go subdue that monster. Elder Yu was energized and ordered Wei Wu. Although General Wei Wu could understand human language, it didn't care about Elder Yu's order. For some reason, General Wei Wu had a desire to conquer the monster the moment it saw it. It was a natural instinct. And so, General Wei Wu chose to face the monster head-on. But Elder Yu stopped running and breathed a sigh of relief as he stood beside Wei Wu. As if he had discovered a new continent, he pointed at the monster and started cursing. Weren't you trying to act cocky in front of me? Why aren't you acting cool now? Are you a coward now? Lin Yi, who was running at the front, sensed something amiss and stopped. Ling Shan and Yu Tian stopped as well, turning around at the same time. What they saw shocked them to the core. Male thief, why didn't you say so earlier that you have a spirit beast beside you? Did you deliberately injure this old man? Elder Yu couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. From his perspective, this male thief just wanted to get rid of him so that he wouldn't have to fight for the treasures in the tomb. Spirit beast? You're saying that General Wei Wu is a spirit beast? Lin Yi paused. He didn't know what Elder Yu was talking about. You have a mystic early phase spirit beast, but you don't want it to fight that monster. Instead, you want me to sneak attack it. What are you planning? Are you trying to kill me? Elder Yu said with a dark face. If this dog wasn't Lin Yi's, he would have slapped it and let Lin Yi have a taste of getting hurt. You're an Earth class and you can't even deal with that monster. You want a mystic dog to do it? Lin Yi asked in confusion. Although he was confused, he realized that with General Wei Wu's presence, the monster really stopped and didn't take another step forward. You don't know. Elder Yu paused and humphed. No wonder a tomb raider like you wouldn't know these secrets. You have a high-level spirit beast beside you and you don't even know. What a waste. What do you mean? Lin Yi really didn't understand what Elder Yu was talking about. Besides, this wasn't a spirit beast. It was just a normal dog that he modified. Although there are many different kinds of spirit beasts and they all have different abilities such as attack type, healing type, fire type, water type, etc., but the classification of spirit beasts is strictly based on their own level. In other words, to them, Mystic will always be higher than Golden class. Even if Golden class is an attack type and Mystic is a healing type, the only thing a Golden class spirit beast can do in front of a Mystic class spirit beast is to submit. This is the biggest difference between spirit beasts and humans. Some people are worse than animals. Elder Yu's last sentence seemed to be hinting at something, hinting that Lin Yi was worse than an animal. A mystic wanted to fight Elder Yu in Earth class. Although Lin Yi understood it, he didn't argue with Elder Yu. Lin Yi was shocked by Elder Yu's knowledge. Before, Lin Yi had never seen a spirit beast before and he didn't know much about them. He didn't know that there were so many things. Chapter 1367. I don't know if I can tame it, but I'm sure it'll surrender. In other words, if that dog protects us, then this monster won't attack us. Elder Yu said. He was able to explain to Lin Yi some secrets that only people of the hidden house level would know. This made Elder Yu feel a sense of accomplishment. Thank you for the pointers, Elder Yu, Lin Yi said faintly. No matter what, this Elder Yu was annoying, but he did explain a lot of things to him. And if you know what's good for you and give me a chi-gathering pill and the medical notes, then I won't kill you. Lin Yi thought. This is just something that everyone in the hidden house knows. Elder Yu said proudly. He had to maintain this sense of superiority that came from a hidden house. Roar dash, the monster roared again. General Wei Wu moved. It walked towards the monster, barking twice as it walked, as if it was sending some kind of message to the monster. The monster heard General Wei Wu's barking and suddenly quieted down. The rage in its eyes disappeared and was replaced with a look of respect. However, because it was injured by Elder Yu, there was a flash of pain in its eyes. Although it was a spirit beast with thick skin and flesh, Elder Yu was an earth class. That one hit was enough to make him suffer. It was obvious that it was injured internally, otherwise it wouldn't be so angry that it wanted to kill Elder Yu. Woof woof, roar, woof, roar roar. The two animals seemed to be communicating, but Lin Yi didn't know what they were talking about. General Wei Wu could understand him, but he couldn't understand General Wei Wu, and he couldn't understand what the monster was talking about. Suddenly, General Wei Wu reached out its front paw and placed it on the monster's body. Instantly, the monster's face showed a look of shock, but it quickly turned into an expression of enjoyment and comfort. Healing Spirit Beast. Elder Yu saw what Wei Wu was doing and he knew that it was healing the monster. Of course, the wounds it was healing were caused by him. Elder Yu couldn't help but show a greedy look in his eyes. Healing spirit beasts were the best of the best. They could heal humans or other spirit beasts. Of course, the degree of healing was also related to the level of the spirit beast. The higher the level, the more serious the wound. A high-level healing spirit beast could heal a person who was about to die. It was just that amazing. Although General Wei Wu was only a mystic, it would become a sky-class spirit beast in the future, and it wouldn't be hard for it to have this kind of power. Spirit beasts evolved faster than humans, and Elder Yu was thinking that if he could bring this dog back to House Yu, what kind of reward would he get? He was starting to regret talking so much to Lin Yi. It would have been easy if he could have used some benefits to trade for Lin Yi's dog, but taking him from Lin Yi's hands was a little more difficult. Healing Spirit Beast? Lin Yi's face flashed with a strange look. Healing my ass. General Wei Wu's body was filled with his universal qi. It was useful to everyone. How did it become a healing spirit beast? General Wei Wu knew how to attack too, okay? But Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to explain these things to Elder Yu. It seemed like General Wei Wu had some kind of agreement with the monster, or else General Wei Wu wouldn't be healing the monster on its own accord. Not long after, the monster moaned in comfort. Roar. It was as if its body was filled with energy and life and all its wounds were healed. This made Elder Yu's breathing quicken. This was a full power strike from an Earth-class master. How could it be healed so easily? Although his strike might not have caused much damage to the monster, General Wei Wu was able to heal it in such a short period of time. This was enough to show how miraculous General Wei Wu was. Elder Yu looked at General Wei Wu quietly. He was thinking about how he could bring it back to the hidden House Yu. Even if he couldn't find the qi-gathering pill, medical notes and pill-making notes, this healing spirit beast would be enough. General Wei Wu could understand what Lin Yi was saying, and it also knew why Lin Yi came to the tomb. The ultimate goal of the guardian spirit beast was to protect the tomb, and also the sarcophagus of the dead. As long as General Wei Wu said that he wouldn't touch the sarcophagus, the guardian spirit beast wouldn't stop him. Plus, General Wei Wu healed the monster's wounds, and the guardian spirit beast was very grateful. Woof woof. General Wei Wu barked at Lin Yi and the others after dealing with the guardian spirit beast. Lin Yi nodded, guessing what General Wei Wu meant. He walked forward and Ling Shan, Yutian and Xiaoke followed behind Lin Yi. But Elder Yu and Old He were scared out of their wits, and they didn't dare to go forward. When they saw Lin Yi walk past the guardian spirit beast, they breathed a sigh of relief and quickly followed. But Lin Yi was fine, and that didn't mean that Elder Yu was fine. When Elder Yu walked past the guardian spirit beast, it suddenly jumped up and roared at Elder Yu. Roar. Ah! Elder Yu jumped back in fright, but he crashed into the stone wall behind him, making him dizzy and disorientated. This spirit beast was already so strong after being injured by him, and now that it was healed, wouldn't it be even stronger? But after scaring Elder Yu, it didn't move anymore. It just laid there, not intending to attack Elder Yu anymore. Evidently, he wanted to scare Elder Yu and get his revenge. With General Wei Wu mediating between them, the spirit beast wouldn't hurt Elder Yu anymore, but he didn't want to let him go just like that. That was why he did this. Elder Yu realized that he was scared and his face reddened. He laughed at himself. This spirit beast is quite smart, playing a joke on me. Of course, his joke wasn't funny at all. With that, Old He and Xiaoke started searching, and even Elder Yu joined in. Elder Yu was in a rush as well. He wanted to get into the underground palace as soon as possible to find the treasures and complete the mission to return to the hidden House Yu. But Lin Yi didn't move, still standing in the middle of the palace. Old He didn't dare to care about Lin Yi's lack of sociability, and Elder Yu was too lazy to care. He didn't want to embarrass himself, so he let Lin Yi stand in the middle of the palace. Lin Yi didn't look at the murals because the information Bujia gave Lin Yi did mention this palace before the entrance, but the key point wasn't the murals, but the stone pillars in the palace. Bujia didn't say what was special about these pillars, but the reminder was good enough. After all, Bujia was guessing a lot of things and he hadn't been here himself. Male thief, is there something special about these pillars? Lingshan saw that Lin Yi's eyes were on the pillars. Yes, but I haven't discovered it yet. Lin Yi looked at one pillar first and didn't find anything special. Lin Yi then looked at the other pillars and didn't find anything out of place. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Perhaps he wasn't a professional in this area, so even if there was something special about these pillars, Lin Yi couldn't tell. There wasn't any danger in this mechanism, so Lin Yi didn't need to use the jade's warning function. Lin Yi's jade didn't react at all when he stood in front of the pillars. There were only a few paintings in the palace and old He Xiaoke and Elder Yu finished looking at them very quickly. They looked at each other again but didn't find anything special. They were just normal paintings like some kind of talisman that could make the dead feel at peace. There was nothing special about them. It seems like we went the wrong way. There's nothing special about these paintings, Xiaoke said. The last painting is the melody of an elegy, and it's also to let the dead rest. I'm afraid so. Old He was an experienced man and he could tell that something was off. Then what do we do? Elder Yu wasn't very happy. They'd been looking for so long, and they still hadn't found anything. Let's look at the male thief. Old He wasn't happy, but he had to admit that the male thief might have found something. Male thief, what did you find? Elder Yu walked over and asked impolitely. Nothing, but there should be something special about these pillars. Flying Sparrow, what do you think? Lin Yi didn't know much about this, but he could give Xiaoke a hint. Oh. Xiaoke hadn't thought about these pillars before, and now that Lin Yi reminded her, she paused. Could it be that there was something special about these pillars? Pillars? Old He was also surprised. Normally, the stone pillars in ancient tombs were used to support the main hall and didn't have any other purpose. It's so boring without shield, bro. Yushi was a little dispirited as she turned to Gooden, who was sitting at the entrance staring blankly. Hey Lilaire, shield bro's your boss, why are you so boring? You're always so bored and you're even blocking the entrance. What kind of bodyguard is this? Gooden's actions made Meng Yao quite troubled as well. Wasn't this bodyguard a little too professional? When they were in the villa, he sat at the entrance like a door god, not caring about the time. When Meng Yao and Yushi went out, he just sat in the car like a bodyguard, not saying a word. Boss told me to protect you guys, and I think that's the only way to keep you guys safe. Gooden said matter-of-factly. Oh, you beat me. Yushi was a little speechless. This guy didn't listen to her at all. He was a stubborn man, doing whatever Lin Yi told him to do and not doing anything he wasn't told to do. And so without Lin Yi as the chef, the villa went back to Faubert's 3 meals a day. In one of the luxurious villas on the outskirts of Donghai City, a hale and hearty old man in a white robe was glaring at the man in front of him who had lost half of his arm. The other party was so vicious that he beat you into a cripple? Master, please seek justice for your disciple. Please avenge your disciple. The man with half an arm missing was Ma Zhu, crippled by Lin Yi's energy bomb. Seeing that his master was finally here, Ma Zhu couldn't hold back the sadness in his heart anymore. He cried, "Your disciple's golden shield is gone, I can't train anymore. Don't worry, I'll make sure that Lin Yi bastard wishes he was dead. I'll let you kill him with your own hands." This old man was Jin Wudi, an Earth-class early-phase peak physical practitioner. "Thank you, master." Sigh. Ma Zhu couldn't help but sigh as he thought about his situation. "Don't worry, I'll think of a way for you to get some spiritual arts for you. You won't be able to go far on the physical path, but it's the same with spiritual arts. You'll be able to achieve more with both internal and external training." Jin Wudi consoled. But he knew that Ma Zhu was probably a cripple for the rest of his life. This villa belonged to the Eastern Sea Zhen family, and Jin Wudi was warmly welcomed by the Zhen father and son. "Elder Wudi, your arrival really brings light to our humble house. Zhen Dazhou was extremely respectful to Jin Wudi. Please take a look, is there anything else you need? No need to please me, I know what you're thinking. Jin Wudi didn't fall for that. You don't need to be so fake, I'm here to avenge my disciple. Of course, if that kid is your enemy, I'll take care of him, so you don't need to thank me. I still need to thank you. Zhen Dazhou was a little awkward. This is just a small gift from me. Please accept it, Elder Wudi. With that, Zhen Dazhou handed a red packet to Jin Wudi. What is it? Jin Wudi asked faintly. Chapter 1370. Dazhou, on the other hand, relaxed a little upon seeing Jin Wudi being so easygoing. He liked this type of person the most, taking money to get rid of trouble. He cut to the chase. Elder Wudi, it's like this. Our Ingjun has been drooling over the two girls by Lin Yi's side for a long time. All this happened because of those two girls, so we can't let them go this time. If your son wants to play with those two girls, just say it. What do you mean by cause? I don't care how it happened. All I know is that my beloved disciple was hurt by that little bastard Lin Yi, so I'll go after him. Wudi humphed, but since you gave me 10 million, isn't it just two girls? I'll just grab them for you on the way. Many thanks, Patriarch Invincible. Zhen Dazhou hurriedly expressed his gratitude. Spending 10 million on two girls was a little painful for him, but he had to spend it. The reason was that his son Zhen Ingjun was turned into a eunuch by Lin Yi. And while he was treated by Yaowang, the effects weren't that obvious. And so, Yaowang came up with an idea. Since Ingjun was drooling over Meng Yao and Yushu, why not capture them and stimulate Ingjun a little? Who knows, there might be some unexpected effects and it might cure Ingjun's impotence right away. For the sake of House Zhen, Dazhou had no choice but to take out 10 million for Jin Wudi to capture Meng Yao and Yushu for his son to play with. Curing his son's illness was the most important thing. Jin Wudi coming down the mountain wasn't a secret, and so when he arrived in Donghai, House Yu Shao family, Hidden House Zhao and Hidden House Pai received the news. Other noble houses like House Wu were the first to receive the news. After all, Jin Wudi was a physical practitioner and House Wu naturally paid close attention to him. Kishan, Jin Wudi has arrived in Donghai. Go visit him on behalf of House Pai. After all, his enemies are our enemies too. If necessary, I can help him in secret. The head of House Pai called his son Pai Zhishan over and ordered. Father, Jin Wudi is just an Earth-class early-phase peak physical practitioner. Do we need to pay him so much attention? Do we need to visit him personally? Zhishan asked, confused. As far as he was concerned, Jin Wudi was an Earth class, but his sect only had one Earth class. It barely counted as a sect, and among the hidden houses, it was the weakest. If it weren't for Jin Wudi, his sect would be the same as the common world's noble houses. Zhishan, don't underestimate Jin Wudi. He may only be an Earth-class early-phase peak physical practitioner, but he's a golden shield practitioner. His entire body is as hard as steel and even I can't do anything to him. Once the golden shield is completed, unless it's someone stronger than him, someone of the same level won't be able to do anything to him. Pai Jaka waved his hand as he spoke seriously. Impossible? Does that mean that only a sky class can deal with Jin Wudi? Father, you're an Earth-class late-phase peak physical practitioner and you're no match for him? Zhishan's face changed as he asked in shock. That's not to say that I'm no match for him. He might not be able to beat me, but I definitely won't be able to beat him either. After all, the techniques I've used on him have practically no effect at all. Pai Jaka smiled bitterly. That's the advantage of having a golden shield practitioner. Even a sky class wouldn't be able to do anything to him if they didn't have a high attack type martial art. Only those with high attack power would be able to hurt him. I see, no wonder you're paying so much attention to him. Kishan said. That's right. Although he's only an Earth-class early-phase peak physical practitioner, he's a member of a hidden noble house. His school is on the same level as us, and although we all look down on his strength, we still have to give him some face. Pai Jiakar explained. That's right. I understand. I'll go visit him now. If he can kill that Lin Yi and that warrior, that'd be great. Zhishan nodded. That warrior is evidently a powerful physical practitioner as well, or else he wouldn't have been able to kill Pai Yongyang with one punch. But with Jin Wudi here, there's nothing he can do. That's right, that means we'll just sit back and enjoy the fruits of his labor. Pai Jiaka nodded. At the same time, Yanjing's house you had also received the news of Jin Wudi leaving the mountain. On one hand they were happy that someone was looking for trouble with Lin Yi, but on the other hand, they were a little disappointed House Yu's revenge couldn't be taken by them, and now it was in the hands of an outsider. But Boss Yu was on a mission to hide House Yu and he couldn't leave. He couldn't stop Jin Wudi either and could only console himself that whoever killed Lin Yi was the same. As long as the revenge was done, who cared how it was done? In the hidden house Zhao, while they knew that Jin Wudi was looking for trouble with Lin Yi, the head of the house, Zhao Guangyin, could only keep quiet. Everything in House Zhao was decided by the old man. He was the head of the house in name, but his power was small. If he could touch Lin Yi, he would have done it a long time ago. This time Jin Wudi had solved a problem for him, indirectly avenging Qibing. However, he couldn't say this aloud, so he just gave Qibing a call and told him to keep an eye on the situation. Qibing, while I can't avenge you personally this time, Jin Wudi is also looking for trouble with Lin Yi. When he does, you should go take a look as well. It'll count as getting revenge for you, Guangyin said as he dialed Qibing's number. Dad, it's such a shame that it's Jin Wudi. It'd be great if I killed Lin Yi myself. Qibing was a little reluctant. Qibing, you know my situation, it's very awkward in the hidden house Zhao. Plus, weren't he and Lin Yi love rivals? With that thought, Gonggao asked, isn't Lin Yi your love rival? Oh, since big brother like Sun Jingyi, I, as his follower, can't fight for her. I can only give her up. But it doesn't matter, what's a man afraid of not having a wife? Once I become a mystic, I'll be able to find anyone I want. It's not a problem for me to have multiple wives. Qintian was quite open-minded. Sun Jingyi is good, but she doesn't belong to me. I won't waste my effort on her, I don't want to make Big Boss unhappy. Alright Grandpa, I won't talk to you anymore. I have to hurry and find Boss Gooden. Traitor. What a traitor. I'm so pissed. Gonggao's heart spasmed and his eyes rolled back as he fainted. But Qintian had already hung up, not knowing that his grandpa had fainted again. Qintian rushed to the Chu villa where Lin Yi was, pressing the doorbell. The door god Air Gooden heard the doorbell and walked out to see who it was. He paused when he saw Chen. You're that Wu something? Why are you here? Wu Qintian. Qintian introduced himself with a face full of smiles. Boss Gooden, I'm here to tell you something. Tell me something? What do you mean? Gooden paused, not understanding. It's like this, according to reliable sources, the head of the Golden Bell sect, Jin Wudi, came down the mountain to cause trouble for Big Boss Lin Yi. I heard that he's an Earth-class early-phase peak. I wonder if Boss Gooden can handle him? Qintian said. Earth-class early-phase peak? Is he strong? Gooden frowned. He used to live in a village and he didn't know much about strength classifications, so he really was asking if an Earth class was strong. But in Qintian's ears, it became Gooden's disdainful question. Was an Earth class strong? Of course he's not that strong in your eyes, Boss Gooden, but I heard that his physical training has reached the peak of perfection, and he's a master of Golden Shield. Normal Sky class masters can't do anything to him. Qintian reminded. What Golden Bell cover at the peak? If he dares come, I'll kill him with one punch. Gooden didn't care if he had the Golden Bell cover or not. If he really came looking for trouble, he'd kill him with one punch. Ah! Suddenly, a piercing laughter came from outside the villa. From a car, a white-robed old man came down and the laughter came from his mouth. Behind him were Zhen Dazhou, Zhen Yingjun, Pai Zhishan, the two Xiao family brothers, and Zhao Qibing in a wheelchair. These people all had a direct grudge against Lin Yi, so after visiting Jin Wudi they came to watch. The white-robed old man was Jin Wudi. Zhen Yingjun, Pai Zhishan, the Xiao family brothers, and Zhao Qibing all thought that Lin Yi was dead for sure. Chapter 1372. Old man, what's wrong with you? Why are you laughing at our door? If there's nothing, leave, I'm the bodyguard here and I don't allow strangers around here. Gooden looked at Wudi thinking that he was an idiot. Kid, I'm Jin Wudi, didn't you say you wanted to kill me with one punch? Jin Wudi once again laughed mockingly like he had heard a joke. Ha, ignorant brat. You're Jin Wudi? Gooden paused, not expecting this idiot to be the Jin Wudi Qintian was talking about. That's me. Woody said proudly. He's Jean Woody? Why is he acting like an idiot? Gooden looked at Woody and turned to Chintian. Is there a mistake? Boss, I think it's him. Chintian looked at Jean Woody. He hadn't seen him before, but he knew the people behind him. With them here, no one would try to impersonate Jean Woody. Well, then you're Jean Woody. Old man, what are you doing here? I heard you're here to cause trouble for my boss? If that's the case, then I'll have to kill you with one punch. Gooden looked at Woody. Ah. Woody started laughing once more, extremely joyful. He turned around and looked at Jin Ingjun and Pai Jishan, his expression very interesting. Did you hear that? He said he's going to kill me with one punch. Do you think that's funny? Ah. Zhen Ingjun laughed. This guy is overestimating himself and wanting to kill the invincible elder with one punch? Even 100 punches wouldn't kill him, he'd tire himself to death, huh? Jean Woody nodded in satisfaction at Zhen Ingjun's cooperation. Wu Chintian, what's wrong with you? Why are you on Lin Yi's side? Could it be that you want to become enemies with Xiao family, House Pai and House Xiao? Wang Ba pointed at Chintian. House Wu was Xiao family's ally, but who would have thought that Wu Chintian would suddenly take the enemy as his boss? Lin Yi is my boss now, so of course I'm on his side. Chintian said matter-of-factly, the people your Xiao family hired are too weak. They're too weak in front of my boss, let alone my boss. I want to learn kung fu from them. I want to become a powerful person. Wu Chintian, have you thought about the consequences? Wang Ba's face was disrespected, his tone darkened. You have to know that you are going against our Xiao family, House Pai and even House Xiao. What are you? You're that old woman's son? Shut up first or else I'll kill you too. And the rest of you shut up. Gooden was getting annoyed by these people. This Wu Chintian wasn't strong, but he was loyal. He took him as his boss and he hadn't even taught him anything yet and he was already so loyal. This gave Gooden a good impression of him. Actually, Chintian was a bit arrogant, but he wasn't a complete idiot. He had his own plans. In the martial world, the biggest taboo was people who went back on their word. He used to be friends with the Xiao family brothers, so it wasn't a big deal. But now that he had Gooden as his boss, things were different. So since Chintian had his eyes set on Gooden, he'd follow him to the end. Of course, he had high hopes for Gooden as well, thinking that he could win. Otherwise, why would Gooden say that Earth class was powerful? Qibing started laughing loudly. Who do you think you are? Even Lin Yi wouldn't dare say something like that, and you're just a follower of Lin Yi. How dare you be so arrogant? Don't you know that people get hurt easily when they're too arrogant? Oh, I know, it's because you're too arrogant, that's why Shield Bro broke your leg. Yushu looked at Qibing sympathetically. At this time, Yushu and Meng Yao came out as well. They heard the commotion in the villa and naturally came out to see what was going on. They didn't expect to see so many people. You don't be so arrogant. Zhen Yingjun's going to play with you soon. Qibing's eyes flashed with hatred when he saw Yushu. Oh, that's not going to happen. Yushu said nonchalantly, it'll be Shield Bro playing with me. As for that Zhen Yingjun, he'll be pissing his pants when Jean Woody dies. It doesn't matter what you say. Qibing didn't believe that a follower of Lin Yi could fight against Jean Woody. But why wasn't Lin Yi here? Prophet Shu's always accurate. See for yourself if you don't believe me. Yushu looked at Qibing with disdain as if he was ignorant. What's going on? Meng Yao waved her hand telling Yushu to stop talking. She looked at Gooden. This Jean Woody, he said he's here to cause trouble for boss, should I just kill him? Gooden pointed at Jean Woody. You want to cause trouble for Lin Yi? Meng Yao frowned and looked at Jean Woody. I don't just want Lin Yi's life, I'll bring you 2 girls back as well. I took 10 million from House Jin to bring you back for them to play with. Woody said nonchalantly, not afraid that Meng Yao would find out. You. Meng Yao wanted to ask what was going on, but the old man said something so shameless. She was a bit pissed. Gooden, kill him then. Shoo, let's go back. Going back won't do anything, I'll take care of Lin Yi and this brat and then I'll bring you back. With that, Woody turned to Gooden. Where's Lin Yi? Tell him to come out and die as well, this turtle letting his follower take the blame. As far as Woody was concerned, Gooden was just an idiot talking about killing people every time he opened his mouth. Didn't he know that his main skill was the golden shield? Did he think he was strong just because he killed 2 mystics from House Pai? Boss isn't here, he told me to protect Meng Yao and Yushu. If you want to capture them, then I'll have to kill you. Gooden said seriously, old man, do you really want to die? You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.